It's time for Mac Break Weekly. Yes, I'm back. Still, my mind's still on the beach, but I'm here. We're going to talk about lots of Apple stuff, including the revelation that the NSO group's Pegasus spyware can crack into even late-model iPhones. iFixit's Kyle Ween makes a pretty strong case for the right to repair, and Apple's decided to keep the offices closed just a little bit longer. Mac Break Weekly is next.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust. This is Twit.
This is Mac Break Weekly, episode 775, recorded Tuesday, July 20th, 2021. Guacamole 2, The Dippening. It's time for Mac Break Weekly, the show we cover the latest news from Apple. Hello, my name is Leo Laporte. Perhaps you remember me from such shows as Mac Break Weekly many, many years ago. Thank you, Alex Lindsay, for filling in for me last week.
Pleasure.
As you can see, I've gone native.
Looks great.
Yeah, I decided, what the heck? I'm not really ready to leave the Aloha spirit behind yet. So, anyway, I'm glad to be back.
It's good to have you back.
Yeah.
It's good. I have I always, this show is much more complicated than it looks on the outside. So when you're actually hosting, you're like, wow, this is really hard. I'm used to it. I talk for 4 hours a day, but I'm used to 20 people.
This show, it should be easy for you. This is your show, man.
It's good. It's good. It was fun.
090media.media and of course officehours.global. With us also, Mr. Andy Anatko of WGBH in Boston. Hello, Andrew.
Hello.
Yeah,
you look like you're about to like advertise your own line of margarita mix. Like that's going to be the picture.
Well,
Captain Leo's laid back, sling back margarita mix.
I don't think avocados are native in Hawaii, but then nothing really is, including all the things you're like coconuts and pineapples and macadamia nuts that they're famous for. So why not? And I had plenty of avocados this week, let me tell you. Some of them on my shirt. Also here from Montreal, Canada, Renee Ritchie, youtube.com/Renee Ritchie. A little too far north for the gentle avocado to bloom, but...
Leo, I loved you. I loved your performance in Guacamole 2, The Dippening. But
The Dippening.
I think what most people don't know about last week, Alex was too nice to point out that he gave Andy and I 2 takes each and then replaced us with CGI. It was seamless.
Yeah,
He got exactly the show he wanted. No takes.
Did anything
No
happen
flubs.
while I was gone? Did Apple make any announcements, for instance?
Battery packs.
Yes.
Battery packs. Yeah,
I ordered one
excited.
immediately. In fact, today we got iOS 14.7, ostensibly for the new MagSafe battery pack, which hasn't come yet. Did you get yours, Renee?
Mine should be arriving today.
Oh, good.
And if it does, I can unbox it on the show. So if you see me
great.
run across the room real quick, that'll be the reason.
Idea, I guess, is that if you have a MagSafe case or no case at all, the battery pack will go suck right onto that magnet.
Thwack.
Thwack. And then we'll see how well it holds. It will add a certain amount of weight, but it'll also add a lot of juice. Although I have to say, the iPhone 12, I have a Pro Max, got me through the day just fine.
It's the mini. It's the mini that needs it. They need like little camera
the
batteries
Thwack.
you can throw on them.
Yeah. So there was an Apple announcement. How exciting is that?
They waited for you to leave.
They waited for me to leave.
Dropped it.
But I woke up that morning and ordered it within seconds, thanks to Apple Pay.
Yeah.
Apple Pay
I was
makes
amazed.
it very easy to buy things, which is probably...
Yes.
Unfortunately, I was amazed that I ordered some Mac Minis. I needed some more Mac Minis this week, and because everybody needs more Mac Minis.
Sure.
And late Sunday morning, I ordered Mac Minis on the Apple Store app, and it showed up in an hour and 45 minutes later. Like it was like at my house.
What?
I was just like, I couldn't believe it, and so
I'm wearing pants.
yeah.
Did somebody drive over from the Apple Store and drop it off?
Literally, I think they use. I heard they use Postmates or something to do it, but yeah, they delivered it to my house in like a little Apple tote. Like it didn't even come in a box. It was like 2 little Apple bags. Like I just bought it, and I had my 2 new Mac Minis.
Isn't that great? That just makes it way too easy.
It's way easy.
It
Yeah.
should really be harder.
Quick before he changes his mind.
Well, and the funny thing is it would have taken me an hour and a half to go to the Apple Store and back. With all the parking and everything else,
so
I saved.
all that time.
I didn't save any time, but I saved wasn't me driving.
The other
like
thing
that.
I ordered while I was in Hawaii is Valve's new Stream Deck, which I will be
Yeah.
getting
Oh yeah, me too.
Christmas 2023. No, 2022.
Did you get the errors, Leo? Because we got so many. George and I were trying to order it.
So
we got
I got
so
up
many errors.
at the ungodly hour of 7 a.m. Hawaii time.
Yeah, 1 p.m. here.
Yeah, a little easier. No, it wasn't that ungodly, but I did get up to order it, and yeah, I couldn't. It just crashed out on me, and then. But we're used to this by now. Only Apple.
Were you
seems to
watching
be able to
Twitter?
do this.
Because I was watching. Matthew Panzarino was failing. Christina Warren was failing. I think
Yeah.
contemplating VPNing into Ireland to buy one with Steve Troughton-Smith. Tom Warren from The Verge was failing. We got the error. You had to have a Valve account in good standing that you'd used previously, so you couldn't scalp it. But there were a bunch of people who were trying to order and said, "You haven't used this account in 12 years." And what we got was, "You're trying to buy this too much. We're locking you out."
I saw that one.
We had to wait.
You're
saw
too
that one.
interested in our product, and that creeps us out.
And at one point,
give us some
you know,
emotional
it's
space.
credit though to Steam and Valve. This is a handheld kind of Nintendo Switch-like device,
It's a Switch for nerds.
and credit to them for doing everything they could to eliminate kind of scalping. So you had to have purchased before June something on Steam, so that you're not just a Johnny-come-lately. And if you didn't, there was a 2-day window and you'd had to wait. They really did everything they could, but I think nobody can anticipate the kind of traffic. And according to a leak in the web page that was leaking information, they sold like 100,000 units in the first hour.
It looks so good though, Leo. It looks so good. Like it really is like a Switch for nerds. Like you can't remove the controllers, but who cares? It is a full PC and it comes with SteamOS, which is fine, but you can put Windows on it. It comes with the Steam
Why would you
store,
put
so all your
Windows
games
on
are
it?
there.
It comes
I mean,
with
if you
Arch
can run it as a
Linux, my
PC.
friends.
You can
It's
plug
all
it in.
you need. You can run
You can
Emacs
plug
on
in.
it.
But I'm saying is like it's not locked down at all. Like it is
No.
completely
They did
open.
lock
You can
it
get
down.
the Steam store. You can get other stores.
They
It is
specifically
like-
said you can run all of the Unix software, Pac-Man, PAMAC, whatever it is that you like to use to install software.
Yeah.
It'll, so it can run. It's going to run
They're
Proton.
not-
It's going to
they're
be a
not-
good thing for Linux gaming because it is a Linux device, which means that this is going to be a lot more people running Linux.
Yeah, I mean, it was incredible. I would have tried to buy one if not for the fact that I've already promised myself I'm going to pre-order a play date when pre-orders open up sometime this month.
Oh, yeah.
It's when you look at a device like this, you expect a big company to say, okay, but we're going to lock it down so that it only runs stuff from the Steam store, right? That we sell them, and we're going to make sure that it's only used as a handheld. You can't plug in like an external screen or extra. No, it's like Renee says. It's like I kept. Yeah, I kept rereading and rereading that there's got to be a gotcha that says that essentially $400 minimum buy-in for what could be a very, very flexible, sort of portable, definitely gaming oriented. But if you wanted to try to talk yourself into thinking that it could be a productivity based.
Well, and or even for
oh no, I need a handheld PC for doing my writing on. I can just plug in a keyboard for that, and for $400, that's not a whole lot of money for a desktop PC.
And I could see us using it for all kinds of things around production. With a PC app, you have PC apps, and now you have all these little controllers where it's like you could be cutting shows, you could be doing other, moving graphics around, you could be doing a lot of other things than just imagine Unreal in there and being able to kind of work in things in Unreal, like building things and driving them with it could be a really awesome way to do animation.
Well, I'll let you know next Christmas.
Yeah, exactly.
They were smart though. They required $5, which kind of keeps the although immediately on eBay you can go and I'm out. You don't have to buy it till it comes. Anthony, you got yours right, or you ordered yours? When is yours supposed to come? Probably Q1. Yeah. If the very earliest orders you could get it in December, but I think most of them would be Q1 2022.
It took us 45 minutes, I think, and we're probably.
I gave up. I was so furious, especially when it finally said,
I bet
you can't buy it because you're too.
That's what George's husband did.
Yeah, I gave up, and
So
then
angry.
and then I came back that night and I was able to order it, and that's why I'm not going to get it till Christmas 2020.
When are the first ones supposed to ship?
The very earliest that they
Christmas.
said was December. Yeah, this December. But I'll be getting it. You know what? It's interesting they're even putting a flag in the sand for that date because Microsoft, for instance, refuses to do that with this Xbox Series X because they said we have no idea when we're going to be able to get those chips and we don't want to promise something we can't deliver. It's my guess.
They only have to have one chip. we started shipping.
Yeah,
like, or 100 of them out there.
Right?
You know,
Every
it's
year
like,
the Mac
yeah,
Pro.
we got them out. Yeah.
It just
One
shows
before
you
Christmas.
what, and I'm going to turn this back to Apple. I'm sorry, but it's kind of my job. It just shows. I have two choices. I could say, well, you might be able to install Mac OS on this. I'm going to not do that. And then the second choice would be, it just shows you how well Apple handles this supply chain issue, because they are able to handle this, you know, after years of difficulties pretty fluidly. I'm sure they get at least 100,000 people banging on their door the minute that it's available, and they
For the battery packs.
yeah, they do pretty well. And a credit to Steam, which had not much experience with this. Their previous Steam PC was not very popular.
I think this is a precursor to a mobile VR headset. Like, this is them stepping their foot in the water of mobile computing, so they can start making things like the Valve Index more portable.
Yeah, I mean, they certainly know. No, they certainly want to do that, right?
Yeah. The company management has said that one of the reasons why they had to hit that price point is that this is not an experiment. This is not, hey, if this works out, then maybe we'll think about doing something else. This is the launch of an entire strategy in hardware, and they want to make sure that they get they get a lot of people invested in the first round, and also that they get this right, so they get a reputation for delivering a satisfying experience.
Starts at $399 for kind of the lowest end. I think almost
Just smaller
everybody
than some
I saw
games.
was saying, "Oh, let's just get the $650 model, which is the top 512 gigs NVMe storage and a
It's
premium
not expensive for what you're getting.
No. By the way, I noticed that on the web page it says expected order availability Q2 2022. I bet if I log in, that'll change. But we'll see.
Some people were complaining about the display the same way they complained about iPhone XR and iPhone 11 displays. But on mobile devices, that's a benefit, not a bug, because like you don't need high density for gaming.
It's 1080p,
and the battery
right?
life is so much better. It's just over 720. It's like
It's not even
800 or
1080.
something. Yeah, but you don't need it. It's wasted pixels and it's just drained battery for you. This is
Right.
like, who wants to play a game for 25 minutes? Like, this will go for 4 hours. It's great. I'm happy.
Yeah, gaming is hot again. I mean, Netflix has announced they're going to stream games. As a Netflix subscriber, you'll get to play games. Of course, Google Stadia, xCloud.
And I don't think Netflix has said that they're going to stream games. They just hired somebody that's going to manage game development. So those apps may be a couple things. One is those apps may be self-contained. They may just be something that you play, that you download as part of Netflix or as part of another thing. They don't have to necessarily stream them, even though they're a streaming company. And most likely, a lot of that content will be interactive content that is related to their products.
Interesting.
Like, why not just have your own game platform that is going to build games around the IP that you're already creating? So something is popular, and it probably wouldn't be like, oh, if something is going to be popular, like The Witcher, you might go. They didn't know the first time, but by the second season, they can have a Witcher game come out at the same time as the next season. It'd be a really, really interesting thing to do.
Yeah.
And like you said last week, it's non-trivial to stream this stuff, and very few companies have the infrastructure to do it well. Like, you're talking like the Googles and the Microsofts. And if Netflix is really confident in their streaming, it's just adding games is adding another whole revenue stream for them.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be streaming games either. It just lets you download the games and play them, inside the environment. Sorry?
Yeah, I just assumed because they're a streaming company that they would do what Google and Microsoft and others have done.
Low latency streaming and latency streaming is like what they do. They don't stream. Like, Netflix doesn't stream. They provide an HLS feed that you watch at a delay of it takes a little time for it to build up.
But it's
that
not
buffer.
a two-way. It's not back and forth. It's one way, really. So you don't
that
have to
sub
worry about
that measured in milliseconds is really unforgiving.
Yeah.
And it probably would not be the best solution for Netflix across their entire user base. Yeah. What would be way better for them is exactly what Apple's done, which is let you download the apps. Yeah. And let you play them inside the environment. Is going to be way better for the overall
Dasher of dreams.
audience.
You dashed my dreams, but yes.
But
we still have Stadia.
just as great.
We still have GeForce Now. We still have Microsoft's xCloud. I mean, they're still streamers. I'm not.
But you don't.
I don't have
again,
to
I think
Netflix do it too.
I think that it'll probably more likely to be interactive experiences that you get to tour. For instance, there's things that you can't do right now on Netflix, which is like they could be doing photogrammetry or 360s of locations while they're shooting all of this stuff, and you could go and explore that. So that one piece of product might be a bunch of things that you can explore. You can play with the objects that they were holding. You can, see other bits of piece. Netflix has been really far behind in that area actually, without having extras and all kinds of other things connected to the content. I mean, the reason that I buy stuff from Apple is because of the extras, and so which we don't get if I get them almost anywhere else.
The other winner with the Steam Deck, of course, is AMD. They're going to use an AMD processor, an APU they call it, which is both CPU and GPU.
Like an SoC.
Yeah, and very powerful too. Also, they're using very, very fast quad-channel 32-bit DDR5 RAM. So they're gonna make a nice bit of kit, as
it's a nice package,
somebody would say. I don't know who.
Nice little piece of kit.
But now on to the Apple news. I don't know how we got onto that. Actually,
because we want Apple to make one. That's why we want Apple to make exactly this for us.
Well, that's the interesting thing. I mean, Apple does, I guess, with the iPad. I mean, that really is for many a gaming device, isn't it? Mm. I was walking down the aisles of the jam-packed 777 airplane on the way home from Hawaii, and a lot of iPads and mostly games being played.
All playing Candy Crush, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Roblox. Yeah, Roblox and kids go together. But the Apple TV. My son plays a lot on the Apple TV, and a lot of the games are actually pretty fun. I get hooked into them. So, and now you're starting to see Apple hiring away, not hiring, but commissioning, like Kingdom Rush, I think, which is my favorite game, is now, I think there's a new version of that is that's now on the app, the game. Apple Games or whatever they call it, arcade, that arcade thing. But arcade, so what they obviously did is paid the same company to build something for them inside of that platform, as well as whatever they're selling on the outside.
They're doing more exclusive stuff. They've announced now that Tetris Beat will be coming out, which is a game of Tetris kind of mixed with Guitar Hero, where you do it, or Beat Saber, maybe you do it to the beat of the music.
I'd pay money for just a regular Tetris that just didn't do anything else, but the old Tetris.
Just Tetris.
I mean, it's just, they came out, they licensed it to somebody, and they came out with this just crazy Tetris.
Yeah.
That was like
you just
Tetris.
Want the game.
I just want the game that I used to play, that I used to like to play, and maybe make the graphics a little bit tighter, but I don't need it to be any more complicated than that. And everyone keeps on wanting to, how do we up Tetris? Well, maybe it would be great to have a version somewhere that someone could use that was just Tetris. Because the licensing is so tight that we haven't been able to see it anywhere else.
You can play it online at Tetris.com. I don't know. Is that too?
On your phone? Just seems like it seems like the perfect thing, because you just tap 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 tap.
Didn't
they even have the Russian music.
Russian music.
Yeah. Yo ho ho. Okay, you'll see me later on this show.
One block only.
I can't rotate.
No, but I agree with you. So I'm glad that they have an idea, that they have ideas for reimagining classic games, but right in the mix, Pac-Man should not necessarily be like a free world roamer where it's an infinite maze.
Know
stable.
what your strengths are. Yeah.
I mean, I would love for them to take 8-bit graphics and make them cooler, but have all the same. I got the Atari 2600, thing that Atari sells, and playing Space Invaders, I was totally happy with the mechanics of it. Yeah. my only thing, I mean, the joystick isn't as good as the old one, no. I thought it'd be fun to make them really high res graphics for fun. Like to have a version of it that skins it. But I wanted to do exactly what it was doing before. It was working just fine.
I bought on the Nintendo Switch. You can buy the classic games, like the original Pac-Man, but they didn't even bother to size it. So it's this big on the screen because they didn't do anything. It's dot for dot the same. I mean, I guess that's what some people want. They call it, to their credit, the Nintendo Museum. So I guess we know what we're getting.
Nerds would be so angry, Leo. If it was a pixel off, some nerds would be so angry.
You're right.
Okay, how about we compromise? We have like Space Invaders, and it is like pixel accurate to like the original release, but after each level, there's like a 6-minute cinematic cutscene that you can't skip. All done with like Unreal Engine.
The backstory.
Yeah, exactly.
You always wanted to know. How did they get there? Let's take. You know what? Coming up. Actually, the Big Apple story of the week.
Yeah.
The big Apple story of the week this week is NSO spyware. And I mentioned
last night
that iOS 4.7 came out today. And Apple says it's to support the new battery pack, the MagSafe battery pack. But I suspect it also might have something to do, we don't know yet, but that with breaking this NSO spyware hack, which is a zero-click hack that worked right up to, we don't know if it'll work on 4.7, but continues to work on all versions, or 14.7, on all versions of iOS up to this point. Big story from Amnesty International, which discovered how many people, 50,000 phone numbers of surveillance targets obtained by Forbidden Stories and Amnesty International. The Guardian and the Washington Post had the details. Researchers analyzed the phones of dozens of victims to confirm that they did in fact have NSO's Pegasus spyware on them. In fact, they've now released a tool you can use to see if you have Pegasus spyware. You probably don't unless you are a target. It's called the Mobile Verification Toolkit, and it's on GitHub as MVT. Did you immediately run that,
line,
Renee?
I didn't run it. I went through the process of looking at it, and thankfully it's much easier on iOS than it is on Android. It's much harder to detect on Android. I'm not so confident that Apple will have patched the bug now, only because it looks like the Project Pegasus chose not to disclose to Apple or Google until they were about ready to publish, which I can understand maybe if they thought it would be a bigger impact, but personally I would have liked them to have disclosed immediately
before they said it. Yeah.
We told Apple about this bug and they fixed it. So now let us tell you all about it.
Yeah.
I really don't like this spectacle of this being in the wild and everybody panicking over it.
Just quickly, that's the difference between a news organization and basically anybody else. They have a responsibility to get the information out as soon as possible. If Apple were to come back and say,
they took forever.
Well, there's a lot of details that we're trying to sift through. I don't think they. On what basis? I'm not challenging, but on what basis do you say that they took forever?
They gave it off to researchers to look into. They got like the University of Toronto to go confirm their findings. Right. Well, that could have been Apple and Google working on the same timeline.
Because it doesn't get as much. It's not going to get as many clicks if it was already fixed. I mean, let's be clear.
I don't. I disagree. That's not why they held on to this. No. This, first of all,
they say it's for privacy reasons.
The people who held on to it were Amnesty International and the Forbidden Project, not Washington Post and the Guardian. They didn't get that information, and as soon as they published it.
No, I'm sure that they published it as soon as they got it.
I don't think that the Amnesty International was looking for clicks.
Oh, okay.
No, that's how you
I am very troubled that it wasn't disclosed earlier. I'll go that far. I'll say I'm very troubled it wasn't disclosed earlier because it puts people at risk for, like they said, it's privacy reasons that this was sensitive information, but they're publishing it. Like Apple and Google, if nothing else, have proven that security departments can keep a secret at least as well as the Washington Post and the University of Toronto can keep these things secret. So I don't accept the rationales as presented, and it does irk me that this was left in the wild longer than it absolutely had to be.
Okay. Researchers have documented this is Washington Post, iPhone infections with Pegasus dozens of times in recent years. So this is not what they revealed. They didn't reveal an exploit. They revealed how the NSO group has been using it and selling it to people like the Hungarian Prime Minister Orban to use against political enemies. So this is not
change.
that. But
Pegasus continues, but the exploits keep changing whenever they're found.
Well, here's one from December 2020. Journalists hacked with suspected NSO group MyMessage zero-click exploit. I don't think so much this was a revelation that there was a new exploit. This was the revelation of how the NSO group has been selling it.
The customers, yeah, but if they burned more exploits and had to spend more millions of dollars, I mean, and Amazon now has shut them down. They struck their infrastructure down that they were using to stage all of this. I think there's a lot that can be done to.
I mean, the good news is that I think the timing of it coming out is problematic. The fact that it came out, the fact that they did the research, the fact that they got involved with the press puts an enormous amount of pressure on NSO, and it's a great service that they did. I think that they just could have been a little bit more. They could have done a little bit more as far as the timing goes. But I think that what they did is fantastic. You know, like that they went through that trouble.
There's no question why Amnesty International was involved and was so eager about this, because people legitimately get killed over this kind of state-sponsored surveillance like this. And the problem, one of the great problems, is that you have companies creating these tools and then just simply selling them to whomever. Whereas if you design certain weapons of that kind of a scale that are conventional weapons, there are
I don't think that they're selling them to
against, and
I don't think they're selling them to anyone. They're selling to governments.
There are reasons why that a lot of these other tools, a lot of actual conventional weapons, are tightly controlled. I thought it was very, very interesting. I think just a few weeks ago, France decided to charge a French digital surveillance company with crimes against humanity, or at least, present a case to a tribunal to see whether two specific executives of this company should be put on trial for crimes against humanity, because they knowingly sold their software to, I think it was Egypt and Libya, knowing for a fact that knowing exactly what they're going to be used for, that it was going to be used for kidnapping, it was going to be used for torture, it was going to be used for killing. And I think that this really ups the stakes on companies like this one, saying that, okay, well, look, the free ride is no longer is soon going to be over with. If you sell tools that are being used to not simply harass, but again, cause torture and murder, you are going to be held accountable for that. You're going to have to know who you're selling to, and you're going to have to make sure that whatever sales you make are done under applicable treaties and applicable international regulations.
They claim they are. They claim that they only sell to governments that don't do this, that the Israeli government oversees all of their transactions, but that doesn't seem to jive with the evidence that Amnesty International is presenting. And they also say that they're not they don't oversee the use of the software after they sell it.
Right. We don't look,
and they don't have regular access to data, which I don't know if that means they have irregular access to data.
Jamal Khashoggi's fiance, he was, of course, murdered by, we think, the Saudi government. She was using an iPhone, she says, because she thought it was safer. Her phone was among the 23 found to have forensic evidence of a successful Pegasus intrusion. The infiltration happened in the days after Khashoggi was killed in October 2018. So the NSO said, our technology was not associated in any way with the heinous murder of Khashoggi.
Well, they're not the only ones providing these services.
Go ahead.
Well,
look up and prove it if that's true.
Yeah, exactly.
But they're not the only. They're not the only ones doing this, including our own government doesn't need to buy it from them.
So are you saying that others have Pegasus besides the NSO group?
Not Pegasus.
Well, this was Pegasus.
Similar.
I'm just saying others have similar technologies.
Well, this was Pegasus.
Right.
So this was from the NSO group. This was Pegasus.
Oh, there was Pegasus that was on Khashoggi's.
It was Pegasus that was on Khashoggi's fiance's phone. So it was the NSO group. Unless somebody else has Pegasus.
Well, but what the NSO group doesn't have control. So what you do is you ask a country.
Matthew Green at Johns Hopkins says they can't make iMessage safe. I'm not saying it can't be fixed, but it's pretty bad. Matthew Green is very
if
highly
someone
trusted.
with that much money, like if a nation state, it's the same thing. If someone has physical access to your device, or someone with the resources of a nation state,
this is not physical access. This is zero click.
No. What I'm saying is those are the two things. Like if someone has physical access, or there's a nation state that is willing to put their resources behind getting you, it is almost impossible. Just because there is no perfect code anymore, and all of these things, like the exploits, Apple will bid against exploits up to $1 million, but there are people who will pay way more than that for exploits, and there are people who are willing to give them to them, and it's just theoretically impossible to harden.
Bill Marjak, who's a fellow at Citizen Lab up at Toronto's Monk School, where they did part of this investigation. He says your phone, your iPhone, and a billion other Apple devices out of the box automatically run famously insecure software to preview iMessages, whether you trust the sender or not. Any computer security 101 student could spot the flaw here. And
that's not true.
That's not.
You can find there are other experts who say like WhatsApp and Signal and all these are really well hardened, but there are ways to get through them. And Apple's made Blast Door, and they've put a lot of stuff into the silicon now, but there are still ways to get through them.
The preview is the problem.
Well, that's not true anymore because it's previewed in Blastdoor. Like I think he's giving you an outdated, as far as I can tell, he's giving you an outdated
certainly that
statement.
was what the point of Blastdoor, wasn't it?
And there are other things you can deny text, but it's something you have to flip a switch for. And if you are the people who are at risk here are people who should know that they have attention to state actors. They're not. This isn't just random people that are getting hit with this. I mean, it could it could be abused.
But consider
what I'm saying is that
fiance, who did not consider
not
herself a
gonna know.
target, but was in fact concerned enough to use an iPhone because she trusted Apple's marketing message.
And it's non-trivial too. Like iPhones will typically, a lot of these exploits do not survive a reboot on an iPhone. It's why people who are paranoid like me reboot our iPhones. It's very hard to get a persistent exploit. Anyone who's tried to jailbreak knows the hoops you have to jump through. So these are often multi-prong attacks, and they found evidence of unsuccessful attempts at getting this, which maybe means you have to reboot and then they have to give it to you again. And sometimes they trick you to go to a website to do other attack vector exploits. It is a really, really sophisticated $1 million funded operation.
I mean, when you're talking about people being able to hack SolarWinds for what it does, and a lot of these things, the attention to that once a state actor points towards something, there's this one is one that's available to smaller countries. But the bigger countries, the top countries have the software themselves. Like they don't need
Russia, China,
these guys
the US
to do
aren't
that.
using.
Yeah, I mean, they don't need the service to do Pegasus. And so, and the thing is that if you are, I mean, I have worked in environments where I was probably a potential target of state actors, and you completely change all the molecules of what you do. When you do that, and you operate with your phone, you have a separate phone from that. You don't have messages, you have Signal. And even then you're careful of everything that you do, with it. You consider your phone as a huge risk factor to what you're doing, and so those are things that you have to take into account and you consider that everybody around you is at risk, when you're in that environment. And you pay attention to emails that you get from them. You pay attention to texts that you get from them. You pay attention to all of those things. It is when you talk to people who are red shirts, or red teams. When you ask them like, who's been able to stop you, their answer is always never. No one. No one's able to stop them. Eventually they'll get through. And so we just have to be kind of, you're absolutely right that the security has to get better. But I think that a lot of that security needs to sit in preferences inside of the user position where you don't want to give that to the average person is not at risk. Like, the average person, like we have this thing, like we put out this big thing and everyone's going to think that, okay, now I'm not sure if I'm at risk or not. The average person has a very, very secure phone, that is more secure than, when they were 1,000 other ways that they could have been tracked before. And if you start doing things where you're kicking open doors, you need to literally change everything about how you work and everyone around you. Like you just have to know that is the cost of doing those things. And that comes with the territory, or it should be seen as what comes with the territory. So, and I think that, now people that know about it, they'll hopefully take more precautions in those areas. And I will assume that, this is a cat and mouse that Apple and Google and Signal and everyone else are constantly closing up whatever just opened. But you have to always weigh convenience versus security. And you decide what's best for most people that are just going to, the average person is going to do it that doesn't need this. But you do need the tools to say, I don't want to, I want to close all this stuff down. And that's what I think is still missing somewhat. But there are things in your phone. If you say I'm not going to take any messages from an unknown caller or any phone calls, it'll do that. But now you miss a bunch of calls and people send your bank sends you a check to see if your credit card isn't did you actually make that charge, and then they close your credit card because you didn't respond because you had blocked all those things, and then people are upset. But then they get upset and they and so you have to kind of, there's a lot of this that you have to weigh back and forth. It's not a pristine solution.
Yeah, according to what happens when these tools become not under the control of a security company, but the basic tools, the basic hacks become more of a commercial entity, kind of like how there are a bunch of organizations that repackage ransomware software. So what happens when this becomes a tool that's being used by people who are stalking an ex-spouse? What happens when it's a tool for someone who is unhinged and they want to get revenge against a workplace that they feel as though they've been unfairly fired from? And this is the sort of I absolutely agree with you that this should not be used as a vector to get everybody just to throw away their smartphones and go back to something with a dial on it. But nonetheless, every time the landscape changes in terms of the threats that are proposed by the presence of a smartphone in your pocket, that information has to get out. People have to have the ability to make an informed decision about what they're trusting and what they're not trusting. They have to at least be aware. Even if here in New England we know that it's very, very unlikely that we'll have an earthquake that'll affect us, we have to know when we move into a brick house that actually there have been earthquakes as close as 28 miles away from there, and the strongest has been, if the epicenter had been moved over, this would have been pretty bad for this town specifically.
I completely agree with you that we need to know about it, and we need to, and I would prefer that none of this existed. But it's also why I think that everybody needs to know about that. And I think that that's why when we get into conversations about fragmenting, like while Apple can't stop it now, fragmenting the OS by allowing external stores and external things and all these other things. The reason I'm so touchy about it, and I get on a soapbox and I start going, we can't let this happen, is because it makes it harder to fix that. Like you're talking about making it harder to fix when you start fragmenting. They can't stop it. They haven't stopped it now, but it's a lot easier when they own everything around it. Then they're building those chips and they're tightening everything up, and they're getting rid of all these. They're slowly carving out and closing up all the things that are there. And as an Apple user, I want them to continue to do that because I understand those risks, and I think that everybody needs to understand those risks. That everyone is at risk, and the chances of stopping this. The problem is
though, really?
They're at risk if...
You just said these are highly targeted, expensive nation-state attacks.
Yeah, but I mean, you want to be able to continue to close it up.
Well, I guess I'm wondering if...
What I'm saying is that
you should maybe offer a phone for people who are targets, and then a little more open phone for people who aren't targets. I mean,
there's no math.
I don't think NSA hardened.
I don't need to adopt all of these security practices if I'm not a target.
Right. That's what there should be little dip switches in your phone that say nope, nope, nope,
Good.
nope, nope,
Yeah.
nope, nope. And close all that stuff out.
I don't think Apple's going to do that, but okay.
I agree. They've already put some of it in.
It'd be nice to have the choice. I agree.
I have Apple's statement if you're interested in it, Leo.
Yes.
I got sent it yesterday.
Let me just ask before you do that. I do want to hear that. I don't think they published an exploit, right? This was not a revelation of how it was done. This was just a revelation of that it was done, and I think that's the difference.
It was both because they had the compromised. They had all the data from the compromised phones and a bunch of the compromised phones.
But I don't think they knew how it was executed. I may be wrong on this. My sense is they were able to detect if it had been infected.
But giving those phones to Apple or Google and letting them analyze them with the data as fast as possible would have been really protects a lot of the people that they were talking about wanting to protect. So if they take a long time to look at it, the people to talk to about it are the companies who can actually change the OS to fix it. But instead, they worked on a lot of other things, and that's fine. It's good that it came out. Again, the problem is that they needed to give them the phone so that they could analyze those things if they wanted to actually get it fixed quickly.
So what does Apple say?
So it was interesting to me is that it didn't come from Apple PR. It came from Ivan Krustek, who is head of platform security architecture at Apple. The guy who's spoken at Black Hat several times. Super smart. He created Bifrost and all of these systems. He said Apple unequivocally condemns cyber attacks against journalists, human rights activists, and others seeking to make the world a better place. For over a decade, Apple has led the industry in security innovation. As a result, security researchers agree the iPhone is the safest, most secure consumer mobile device on the market. Attacks like the ones described are highly sophisticated, cost millions of dollars to develop, and often have a short shelf life and are used to target specific individuals. While that means they are not a threat to the overwhelming majority of our users, we continue to work tirelessly to defend all our customers, and we are constantly adding new protections for their devices and data.
Yeah. And presumably you should keep your iPhone up to date as possible. But if you are a potential target of nation-state hackers, you probably shouldn't be carrying a smartphone of any kind.
You need OPSEC, not just InfoSec. Like you need to have a rotating schedule.
Ask the NSA what they let the president use and use that.
Yeah. Not anymore.
Again,
it didn't seem to
generally nothing.
Maybe nothing, yeah.
We do have to worry about the unknowns out there, that you never know when or for what reason that you might be your goings, the contents of your phone and your comings and going might be of interest to someone who wants to do you harm. Sometimes that's a state-sponsored act. Sometimes, again, it's just some crazy person who was leafleting your town and noticed that you took down one of their leaflets. And so this is the sort of thing that could go. The weaponization of this could increase in scale very, very easily. I mean, for me, I absolutely understand Alex's reaction that this is why we have to be really, really sensitive and careful about opening up stores on devices. For me, my first reaction was this is doubly, triply underscoring why we should not allow any back doors into our device for state security. This is why every time that there's been a proposal that, we can just give, Apple could just create a private key that's known only to law enforcement and that could decrypt the contents of this device, said no, there is no safe way to do that. And this was before we had a really clear picture of, again, I think a lot of us can easily imagine, someone with the resources of a huge industrialized country can certainly afford to break into any phones of interest. It's when I've got a PayPal account, I've got this website that says that for $8,000 they'll give me a list of phone numbers. They will provision a whole bunch of tools that will break into these phones for you. That's the real scary thing. That's why, in principle, we have to fight those kinds of incursions. That kind of government-based, with free owned privacy to fight terrorism. We have to weaken the security of your phone. I'm not afraid of governments as much as I'm afraid of, again, that person 5 years from now that will sell for $8,000 just an unlock for anybody's phone.
Well, you're not afraid of governments because you live in the U.S., but if you lived in Saudi Arabia or the UAE, you might well be afraid of governments.
No,
suggest you don't visit Dubai and do anything you don't like. They don't like because you might well be a man of interest. I think nobody questions that Google and Apple both would love to stop this cold, and they're doing everything they possibly can.
Absolutely.
There's no question about that. I think this story was really important. I think Amnesty International and Forbidden Stories did a very, very good job, because I think the people we have to really put pressure on is the NSO group and people like that who do make these exploits, search for these exploits, find them, and then sell them. They don't, the people who didn't reveal this to Apple is the NSO group, because they could make a lot of money selling it to governments. And
they maintain they stop terrorists and they stop sex and drug traffickers, but it doesn't seem like they do their cyber job of checking the cyber licenses of all the people who are coming to buy these cyber weapons.
I mean, I think they're as culpable as the nation states that buy their stuff.
The hard part, we can try to do it publicly. The hard part with NSO is that everybody's hand is in the till. Like all the governments, all of their hands are in the till.
No government wants this to stop.
There's not.
Absolutely.
So we can try to do that, but it's hard.
People want it to stop, not the governments.
Yeah, it's just this is where the will of the people and the will of governments may not line up 100%. And so I think that's why it's important that we make sure that we empower companies like Apple and Google to do whatever they need to do to close their system down. Yeah. And when we talk about not allowing security, we need to always consider that to be one of the top things that a phone company can do. But that is why when I suddenly take this hard turn and say, we can't fragment the market, it's because it makes it harder to secure the phone. Like, that is the thing that I'm most concerned about, is making it harder to secure the phone, and which I think is very, very important.
I don't know if there's evidence of that, because these hacks still happen all the time, and
they're
Apple's
still going to happen. But it's going to be a lot to easier for Apple to close this up than Google.
$1 million and not $1,000.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be lovely if there were just like Gatekeeper on the Mac has different settings saying that, okay, well, you can either make this the Wild West and you can install any app you want, or we will limit it to just developers that inside or outside the App Store have leaved themselves known to us, or we can lock your phone down so it only gets stuff from the App Store. 1, 2, 3 different different settings. It would be wonderful if one of the long-term results of this is that you would expect that from every phone, that's saying that, look, there are 3 settings. We can, and basically they are an opposite. The security of your phone and the level of pain you're going to experience are on opposite trajectories here. So if you are in a situation where you feel as though I don't want to take any risks whatsoever, I'm willing to feel the pain and reduce my phone to something that can basically just receive texts from people I know and make and receive phone calls from people I know, all the way up to, okay, I feel as though I'm not at risk. Please just give me like the basic security I would find in iOS 14. That would be wonderful. A side story that we're not going to get into, because I'm sure because it's not related to Mac, but there was some teen Bitcoin self-proclaimed millionaire got into a lot of press by saying, "Oh, I'm offering the Freedom Phone, and it protects your freedom, and it's not made by don't trust the big companies Google and Apple." And well, yeah, but you're basically taking a phone off of Alibaba, you're putting AliExpress, you're putting all kinds of software on it that is not checked, not tested, which caused me to have to refresh my knowledge about, well, if I wanted to get a really 100% secure phone, what would I have to do to make that happen? And once again, you can make that happen, but the pain threshold of locking down your phone against as many practical threats as can be combated on this device, you will have a phone with very limited capability. But again, some people, they would like to have that phone in a desk drawer somewhere, and when they're about to go to China or they're about to go to Turkey, or if they are about to, like Alex, start working on a contract that might cause people to take attention to what they're doing. Guess what? My Pixel phone, my iPhone, they go into the drawer. The black box phone comes out of the drawer. And again, if I have to get my 8-year-old like Nikon Pocket camera out of storage so I can continue to take pictures in my daily life, that's what's going to have to happen, because the threat to my life, the threat to my coworkers is too great.
Yeah. I used to think that too. I used to think that Gatekeeper would be a really good solution for iOS, but I'm rethinking that a lot lately for 2 main reasons. One is that a lot of the stuff that people say they want Gatekeeper for, like VPN apps in China, still wouldn't work because China just blocks the server. But the other thing is the amount of social engineering that goes on around Gatekeeper-like features. And some of it is personal, like kids are like, oh, I want to get Pokemon Go before it comes out, or I want to get Fortnite when it's not available in the App Store. So I'm just going to go on the internet and find out the instructions, and they turn that stuff off, and it's not always turned back on, or they end up downloading a version of the app that's not real. Or like schools say you have to install this software to do scrutinizing for your tests, and you have no choice. You just have to put it on. Or a company decides it doesn't want to be bothered, like Facebook doesn't want to be bothered by the App Store or by the enterprise license, so they do it. And I think there is some consumer benefit to having a device that is much harder to socially engineer, where that's just not an option, where you can say that, if I want that, I'm going to buy an Android phone. And if I want to make sure I can't be tricked, bamboozled, intimidated, forced, coerced in any way to weaken the security of my device, I want to have that as an option. And right now we have those 2 options, but it remains to be seen how long we have them for.
Yeah. I agree with you. You're absolutely right. I mean, your knowledge of the inner workings of how these things go are so valuable to this conversation and so many others that we've had. What I was going after, though, is that people need to simply have, again, 3. Whatever happens behind the scenes, they have to know that, look, here is easiest, most attractive to use phone, least secure relatively, and most secure phone, biggest hassle, and then someplace in the middle, and make it difficult to switch between the two, so that you're not faced with the problem of the user doesn't have to face the problem of, okay, well, I'm going to have to allow use of this protocol inside iMessage, or I'm going to have to approve the use of SMS as a messaging platform. No, just make all this stuff, bury it behind a setting, so that users can get the greatest benefit from it without having to really figure out exactly what these things do. We're already trusting.
I should also point out that there's no evidence at all that that Android phones were any more susceptible to this than iPhones. So, Android phones, which do have that switch and do allow you to sideload, but that's not how these attacks are happening.
But it's going to be like, we don't know that. Number one is we don't know how many code hours was spent on Android versus the iPhone to get through all those things, and how easy it will be for Apple to close that down because it's already so closed, and Android is hopelessly fragmented. There's no way that you can secure the Android phones. And so the thing is that the iPhone is it has holes, but the holes are much smaller and there's much fewer of them.
I don't know
because,
if
and so the thing.
So.
Yeah,
I disagree. There's no evidence of that. By the way, France has just announced it's investigating a report that Morocco had their president, Emmanuel Macron's phone tapped using
Well, there were
spyware
1,000 phones in France
developed by an NSO group. Yeah, this was back in 2019.
And
again, those aren't. That's not like. That's an intelligence agency from one country loaning it to another country a lot of times. Like they just, we'll get you in there. This is a very common thing for intelligence agencies to do, is they're not allowed to do it, but they can get somebody else to do it for them. So someone else has that contract with NSO, and then they go, well, can you get me through it? And they're making a trade for some other piece of intelligence information.
Moving on.
I'm out of breath. That was a great conversation.
Yeah, I agree.
I need a protein bar or something.
Actually, interestingly, Apple is catching up on Android in the United States. It was, in days gone by, the case that Android had maybe as much as 70% of market share. It is now 50-50. And according to the analysts at CIRP, the Consumer Research Intelligence Partners, the reason is iPhone users are more loyal to iPhone.
It looked like the iPhone were becoming more loyal, because it was like Android is at 93.
That's right.
And iPhones have now gone up to 93.
That's actually right. They're becoming more loyal, so they're now equally loyal, which is bizarre. You'd think iPhone owners would be more loyal than Android owners.
I think that there's a lot of value to both platforms for the people that have them.
Yeah.
And so I think that people who want the flexibility that Android provides is something that they're never going to get on the iPhone.
This is from the note. In the most recent quarter, Apple had an edge in loyalty, with 93% of prior iPhone owners upgrading to a new iPhone compared to 88% of Android owners staying with Android.
It's also different.
Actually, this is upgrades, isn't it? This is buying a new phone, and it may be that iPhone owners buy new phones more often. I wouldn't be surprised to hear
But it's also different because you can move across Android phones and you're still on Android, where if you want to move to something different with the iPhone, by definition, you're leaving the iPhone.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But I think that's probably good news. I never knew that. I always assumed it was pretty much 50-50 all along, but now it is.
It was used to be like as close to 50-50 in America, which is very different than the rest of the world. The rest of the world is predominantly Android, but amongst American teenagers, it was predominantly iPhone,
right?
Because of all the social factors to it.
Yeah, this is US. These numbers, yeah.
And that is a very significant change, because when you think about the amount of flexibility that people have by going Android, particularly in price, the fact that Apple is far from losing ground, they're gaining ground, means that they are not only broadening the net, so to speak, making it more available to more people, but also continuing to press the advantage of if you have $500 to spend on a phone, we can sell you a phone for $500, and you will be more happy with our phone than you will be with anybody else's. So that is a really, really good statistic.
And I believe that Android globally is still 73%.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because that's huge. and also keep in mind that that's not 70. It's not really an apples to apples sort of comparison, because when you talk about the market share of Android, you're talking about every Android device, including like blister packed or the cheapest phones available in the world, running old versions of Android that basically have no comparison to any version that was released 2 or 3 years ago. So that's why it's still the dominant OS by a huge factor. But you really should. It's a much smaller number as a practical thing in terms of people coming in wanting to get a modern smartphone, and how many people have Android phones that fit that bill. How many people have iPhones that fit that bill.
Interestingly, LG, which abandoned the Android phone market very recently, has decided to sell iPhones in its stores in South Korea.
It didn't take long. they didn't even wait until the body wasn't even cold yet.
Building the phones was too much hassle. We just wanted the money, and this was the easiest solution.
Samsung does have 67% of the South Korean market share. Apple only 22%, but LG had even less.
You know what's interesting?
And in South Korea, Samsung's a point of pride.
Yeah.
LG will make more money selling Apple phones in Korea than they ever sold their own phones.
Oh, for sure. I think that's guaranteed. Yeah,
that was probably part of the math.
Yeah. So maybe there'll be more people worldwide using iPhones starting in South Korea. Our friend Kyle Wiens of iFixit, former sponsor, very aggressively promoting right to repair. He says Apple, Samsung, and Microsoft are monopolizing the supply chain and designing products to prevent users from easily repairing them. He's talking to the Productivity Commission during their virtual right to repair hearing on Monday. I don't know who runs the Productivity Commission, but he said Apple is notorious for doing this with chips in their computers. There's a particular charging chip on he's talking about modifying the chips just ever so slightly so they can claim proprietary. Yep. There's a particular charging chip on the MacBook Pro. There's a standard version of the part. Then there's the Apple version of the part that sits very slightly tweaked, but it's tweaked enough so that it's only required to work in this computer. And that company is, again, under contractual agreement with Apple, and that's the key. These companies won't sell these parts to
I think that there's a suggestion in here that they should label these as better or worse to right to repair, and I'm 100% behind that. I think they should definitely let people know, and then they should let the consumers decide what they want to buy. I think telling them that they can or can't is something that, as a consumer, I'm not that interested in. But I think that people knowing how repairable their device is, I think putting it in front of them, putting a big sticker on the front, I think is fine.
He gives an example of Apple having warehouses full of spare parts. Once the 7-year window for repairs ends, they'll destroy the parts rather than selling them to the marketplace. He says, so someone like me who eagerly would have bought them, they were paying the recycler to destroy them instead. And iFixit does great on repairability, for sure.
Yeah.
But I think it's also kind of unconscionable for a company to say we don't repair it after 7 years, so we're just going to destroy all the spare parts so no one else can either.
100%. I think Apple can make, and these other companies, they can make very, very good sound arguments about how, hey, look, we can't make phones that are half an inch thick and are held together by screws that with all components that are like ICs that are in sockets so you can pull them out. But that's not what the right to repair is asking for. They're simply saying that we want a level of repairability so that third-party repair centers have an ability to extend the life of these products. And the fact that Apple is one of the companies that's lobbying hard against these rules, which don't not only protect phone consumers, they protect medical communities using medical equipment. They affect farm equipment. They affect everybody who's driving a car. The fact that they're underpinning a basic thing that does so much harm across so many sectors of society, that to me is indefensible.
In France, where they have now mandated that a repair index be on the box so that people, when they buy the device, will know its repairability. This applies to smartphones, laptops, televisions, washing machines, and lawnmowers.
And lawnmowers. I think we should add the lawnmowers.
A recent Samsung survey showed that 86% of French citizens say the index impacts their purchasing behavior, while 80% said they would give up their favorite brand for a more repairable product. So I agree with you. Let's start labeling. That's a good idea.
I think labeling's good. I think that there actually are some valid reasons. I mean, with the way that these things are packed together, having random people fixing them means that, with a lot of different things, the reason that they're doing this, I just don't think it's that big of a revenue stream for these companies. It's a matter of their brand of when something catches fire on a plane, or if something does something like that, they don't have control over it. And they don't, it's their brand that's being affected. That's why they're fighting it, I think. I don't think that, I just don't believe that it's that big of a revenue stream for them.
I realize that this is a matter of opinion, but for me, I think that it's not necessarily a thing where they want people to force to be used to use authorized service centers and authorized parts and maybe buy new phones or new lawnmowers when they could essentially fix what they've got. I think it comes down to it is way too much trouble. We consider this to be way too much trouble for us as a company. This doesn't make us any money, so why would we invest any time, money, effort, or human staff power into making this happen? And the answer to that is because you don't want to be a dreadful company.
Well, you don't have to investigate the motives of why a company's doing it. It doesn't matter.
Right, exactly.
It's a better world would be if after 7 years these devices were not thrown out, but there was an opportunity to repair them. I think would be a great thing.
Yeah, it's just, I think it's just like companies are sometimes short-sighted about these things. They don't see the benefits. All they see is the downsides.
I think you could put pressure on Apple, and they would go, "Oh that's a silly policy. We're going to stop destroying those perfectly good parts."
They have been slowly, like they're slowly getting better at this, but just not very fast. And that's the hard part. Is like they do like these little things where we're doing this program where people can get more of this stuff, and then everyone covers it, and then it takes a year before it's in another country, and then a year before another part is added.
Yeah.
So like they're coming around. It's just with no velocity.
So that's the main reason I bring it up. It's not to slag Apple. There are good reasons why they do it, and they're perhaps just out of inertia. There's other reasons why they do it. I don't even care what their motives are. We want a better world. We want better repairability.
I think a label is great.
A label is great. Be a good start, and don't destroy parts that are perfectly good. Offer them to repair companies after the.
My guess is that. The French are really upset about it, or they say that they are. But the chances of people buying less iPhones because of the label is probably pretty low.
Well,
there was that whole investigation to Amazon that was.
Go ahead, Renee.
Sorry, Andy. No, I was going to say that like Amazon was destroying all these products, including MacBooks that were at their warehouse, and people couldn't believe it. And they said, "Yeah, well, we forced the companies to store them here, so it's more convenient to ship. But if they don't sell, we're not going to store them for free for them, and they're not going to pay us to store them, and we have no legal right to give them away. So we're just going to destroy them." And it's always this super dumb bureaucracy. And it's probably the same thing with these parts. It's just like who owns these parts, who's supplying them, is Apple preloading them, what's the ownership, what's the liability, and so like the easiest thing is to destroy them, and it's the dumbest thing at the same time.
Yeah, we just want to encourage proper action.
Think of the planet.
Think of the planet. And I have no doubt that Apple does and cares. And so they may be sensitive to this kind of.
Well, they have Lisa Jackson. She's a force of nature. We just got to get her activated on all these things.
Yeah. By the way, they have, according to Mark Gurman, he's got the scoop, man. Apple has decided, thanks to COVID spikes in our region, the good old Delta variant, to delay the return to office by at least a month. They were planning in September. Now they're saying October. They're recommending workers at their stores wear masks. And they said, we will give employees at least a month's warning before mandating return to office. We don't know when that will be.
Did we suggesting masks again?
Yeah.
Have we talked about the masks at the Apple
September
Store?
Event.
No, what masks do they wear at the Apple Store?
I asked them. I was at the Apple Store and I asked them what masks. I was like, those are the nicest masks I've ever seen. Where do I get those? I literally asked them and they said, oh, we made them. Like Apple made their own masks. Of course, they're Apple designed, Apple produced masks, and they are the nicest masks I've ever seen.
If there's any argument on the importance of having your own reliable supply chain, it's for emergency supplies like this. And part of it had to do with all the wildfires that are happening regularly around Apple, that they realized they have to have a stock. They have to be able to give all of their employees masks so they could breathe outside safely. Mm-hmm. And again, the ability is that's the one company that's going to have as much hand sanitizer, as much, as many MREs, as much pails of fresh water as they possibly need for any eventuality.
I have to say, as somebody who just got off a 4-hour flight, having to wear a mask the whole time, I'm a little disappointed. We're actually trying to decide whether we should require masks in the inside. People came back to the office.
Isn't the whole county doing it? I think the whole county where Apple is are recommending them.
It's complicated. So, remember the issue is vaccinated versus non-vaccinated. The Cal OSHA is not requiring it, but they're suggesting that non-vaccinated employees wear masks. We actually are saying you can't come inside unless you are vaccinated, period. Yeah. But so it really is complicated. A lot of places are masking.
Like a lot of Israel, I think, is mandating masks even if you are vaccinated now, because Delta is just so problematic. And for the people who aren't getting the people who got vaccinated now have to wear masks to protect the people who didn't get vaccinated is basically where we are at this point in the movie.
Yep.
But it means probably no September event, right? Because if there was any chance that Apple was going to look at that and say, maybe we can bring at least U.S. media in for this.
If they're not reopening the office in September, they're definitely not having a live event in September.
I don't see any reason why. I mean, they're probably not going to have any. I would be surprised if they have anything until maybe WWDC next year. I'd be, there's not really any.
Well, if they listen to you, they'll never have another live event, right? Or they'll only have limited.
So there's really good reasons. I mean, so WWDC and it's one of the few conferences that, WWDC and F8 and Google I/O and Build give you a lot of face time with the code, and they haven't fixed that yet. The ability to do what they do on a whiteboard, the ability to do what they have. I mean, they've gotten much better at it, and there's a lot of people that really, I've talked to some developers that got some of the one-on-ones from this last WWDC, and they said they'd rather have that than Go because they really had that. Now, a lot of that's available. I mean, you have to get in line, but a lot of that's available to people, all year round from Apple. But there are a lot of good reasons to have a physical event like WWDC. There's not a lot of good reasons to have the presentations. That's the only thing I think that they can get rid of, is they just need videos of those presentations because they're more viewable. They sound better, they look better, they're faster. They're better, especially as an evergreen product. You're going to go back and look, because I look back on stuff on HLS 6 years after it was done to figure something out. And I now, especially, I was just doing this with HLS. I was like watching everything because we were dealing with some issue. And when we got to the new ones that were recorded, I was like, oh, what a breath of fresh air. It just is so much easier to watch. And I think that the keynotes are way easier to watch, for the user without the stage. I do think that there are reasons to have physical events. It's just that it's not to present something. That's not a valid reason to do that. Yeah. I think that there's a reason to bring the press in because you want them to touch the stuff and talk to the Apple folks. Yeah. But they don't need to. That doesn't mean you need to do a presentation. They can just watch a big movie.
There will be no touching for a long time, I predict.
No hugs.
No hugs, no touching.
Eva Quino was so sad he was going to miss his annual hugs. I felt for him.
Hey, let's take a break, but then in a second, a question about security and Apple being posed by Google. You're watching Mac Break Weekly, or you're listening. Andy Ihnatko, Renee Ritchie, Alex Lindsay. Google's been pushing RCS, the Rich Communication System, to replace SMS, partly because they say it's more secure, and they're encouraging Apple to join the short parade of carriers moving over to RCS. Verizon's going to join AT&T and T-Mobile in preloading Android messages. Android Messages, Google's messaging app, and Android uses RCS.
Like herding cats.
And the problem, they say, with iMessage is that it falls back to SMS. If you're messaging somebody who's on an Android device or any non-Apple device, it'll fall back, because there's no iMessages, it'll fall back to SMS. Google says SMS is not secure. We know that. RCS is. It's encrypted by default. They very much would like Apple to go along. You agree?
I agree that they want them to. I think it would be.
It is a standard. It's not a Google standard. Google seems to be the one pushing it. But
it's been such a start-stop off-on thing. Like, it's just been one of the most painful rollouts
that's a good point.
I've ever witnessed.
Apple may look at Google's messaging strategy overall and say, "Yeah, we'll get back to you."
I don't blame Google. I blame the carriers. They're like they're famously like the railroads who wanted to make all their tracks different lengths so you couldn't go from one to the other.
That's right.
Getting into Apple's advantage is that it's a totally vertical stack. Why would they unstack that?
For those poor people not on iPhones who are getting now unencrypted, in fact, very insecure SMS messages. It would be nice.
Same on the iPhone, because we're getting those. Like, when those messages fail over from iMessage, we get the text message too, and it's terrible. But I think it's chicken and the egg. Apple won't adopt it until sufficient people have adopted it. But we've learned over time that sufficient people don't adopt it until Apple adopts it. So one of them has to just blink for our benefit or our sake.
Here's a little nudge from Hiroshi Lockheimer, who is in charge of Android for Google. Going forward, says Lockheimer, the default messaging experience on Android is going to be more secure. The fallback messaging experience on the other platform will not have encryption if it's still SMS. I think that's a pretty interesting dynamic. I would hope that as everyone focuses on security and privacy, it becomes an important part of the discussion. Lockheimer, according to The Verge, would not confirm if Google is in active discussions with Apple.
Can you forget the name of iOS? Because Tim always says Android.
The
That's
other
such a weird
platform.
Yeah. Well, there is a good point to be made that if iMessage is going to be essentially the only widespread messaging platform that's available for the iPhone. I'm not discounting WeChat and Signal and the others, but I'm saying what most people, when they want
That's the
to
default, so,
when they pick up the phone trying to send a text message with cute pictures to their brothers and sisters about how their vacation is going, that is really the only choice that iPhone users have available. I think Apple needs to make a case of why they wouldn't try to make that as inclusive as possible, particularly when there's another standard that getting T-Mobile on board was very, very big. There was a lot of waffling about this standard, but if it delivers value to users and if it helps a messaging app achieve its goal of helping people to stay connected together, and there is a security benefit to it, I wish that Apple would, again, not be defensive and feel as though they've got to make a statement about this, but I wish that they would explain why they don't think that this is a good fit for the iMessaging platform.
I'm sure they'll just say it's not widely adopted enough yet, and then people will say, you're not adopting it.
473 million monthly active RCS users around the globe. It's only recently been coming to America, and that's only because, as you said, the dinosaurs and the carriers have been slow to adopt. But now that Verizon has joined AT&T, T-Mobile, maybe.
Yeah.
And
it would, if nothing else, it would really blunt people like me who complain that, gee, why aren't you making iMessage multi-platform? Why are you putting us in differently colored bubbles jail? And again, it would be a nice thing to do.
I'm curious as to the behavior, and I don't know the behavior of the average person of how they deal with it. I was just trying to think about, while we were talking about it, like how many green messages do I get versus blue messages? And I realized that I didn't realize this until we were talking about it, that my behavior is that if you have a green message, I use email.
My God, you're one
I just
of those.
realized. No, I just stopped texting because I'm like, oh, green. Like it means I can't send anything. I can't do this. I can't do that. I can't. And so I just switch over to. But I didn't realize I was doing it. It wasn't conscious. I just realized that it's just harder when someone is and then when someone goes blue, you're always like, you're blue. Like you get these big things.
Alex, if you cut us, do we not bleed?
Yeah, blue.
But I'm full of I use all of iMessages, like all the little weird emojis and GIFs and all, like just constantly. We're always going back and forth. And if someone has green, they just get text. Like it's just like
so sad.
It's just funny.
Alex
But I
did something really interesting, but you can't see it.
All Apple has to do is make iMessage Plus and charge $2 a month for a gold bubble, and then everybody will want it, and they'll be orders.
I'm a gold bubble.
Yeah. I'm a gold bubble.
I'm a gold bubble.
It's like, Tim, the money's waiting for you.
Get Beyonce. Give a free account to Beyonce and other influencers, and then
Karl Lagerfeld.
That's how you increase that piece of the pie about services.
Everyone who got the gold watch gets the gold bubble.
Watch out for the gold AirPods. The counterfeit AirPod business has reached now a significant number, $62.2 million confiscated in the first 9 months of the U.S. government's fiscal year. 360,000 counterfeit wireless headphones seized by customs because they look like AirPods. Customs says that's probably only a fraction of all the fake headphones sold worldwide.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried about that because counterfeits are a huge problem, and it's a huge problem for individuals because it's one thing if you say, "Gee, I really want people to think that I've got the $200 AirPods, but I don't want to spend more than $29. I'd much rather buy these knockoffs." The big problem is that when they buy from eBay, they buy from Amazon through like a third-party seller, and they think that they're getting AirPods, but they're getting these cheap crap $29 plastic things. But I'm a little bit worried when customs takes on the responsibility of saying, no, this version of the thing you stick in your ear for Bluetooth audio looks too much like Apple's thing you stick in your ear.
Yeah, exactly. Remember with the OnePlus,
right?
The OnePlus headphones, which were legit. Yeah. They thought, well, they look too much like AirPods, so we're going to block them. We're going to seize those.
If you're trying to, you'll be in jail.
Yeah. I was saying, if you're trying to fit human ears, most human ears are very, very similar to each other. So we say, no, you can only definitely be sure to be able to import your earphones if you make them like, I don't know, like square have like lots of sharp edges that go into your ear.
Yeah, I mean,
that does look like the Apple.
It is, of course, the job of customs to block counterfeits.
Of course.
So they're doing the best they can.
I mean, the Apple AirPods do have a very specific look to them. So it's they compared to every other AirPod. I mean, every other Bluetooth.
Well, you've seen the fake iPhones. I even have one in my office.
Yeah, they're from Shenzhen.
They really look like an iPhone. Right up to the point where you boot it up and it's running Android. But other than that, it's identical.
Yeah, and I've seen some where you really have to drill deep down before you break your nose on that glass shut door.
You only find out when you turn out to be a blue bubble. Then you know.
Yeah, exactly.
What?
Well, and I think that when they say that Apple's losing 3.2 billion, I doubt it. The question is whether how many of those people would actually buy the full priced one, when, compared to the $29 version of it. So
yeah, I didn't quote that number because I think it's that's like when they make a drug bust. They say that's $1 billion worth of heroin. Street value.
I've been scoffing at that since I was like 11 years old and defending myself for like ripping off Electronic Arts games. It's like, okay, first of all, it's not like I'm an 11-year-old kid. I would have been able to afford a $49 game. If I had $50 and I spent it on a game, my mom would tan my hide to believe you.
That's how we for anyone in graphics, the first thing you stole was Photoshop.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Like it's
I would never have bought it otherwise.
Well, I got it with the scanner. I got my very first one. I got the first one with from a friend. But soon after that, they bundled it with all the scanners. And so in the early 90s, you could get Photoshop with anytime you bought a scanner, you got Photoshop.
I have to think they must look a little away because they know that they're getting you hooked, Alex. And you've bought how many copies of Photoshop since? You spent a lot of money on.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, they moved to subscription model. That's part of the way you get rid of some of that because it's not a bit. It's much harder to break the subscription model than it is because it's always checking in home. So they've definitely managed that. And from a software perspective, and we're going a little into a rat hole, but from a software perspective, the companies that had the highest piracy rates also had the highest sales. Yeah. So because as soon as you started, you took the software and you started making money with it, and then you were afraid you're going to get, as soon as you have employees, you can't do that anymore because one, frustrated employee calls the software, whatever bureau or whatever, and you have a $250,000 fine. So you're super careful about it once you have a company, once you're making money. And so a lot of companies learn to just kind of look the other way. There's tons and tons of books on Maya, and there weren't that many users. I mean, literally, there was some point where we realized the sales of Maya training was more than the sales of the software, and that's when that there's a big piracy thing going on out there, is because people are buying a lot of books for something that they don't own. And so they moved to the subscription models. But I think that the companies that were really good at Electric Images, which is what I use, was really good at securing their software. And they also didn't last as long.
Nobody bought them. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you didn't have the money to spend $7,500 on a piece of software when you were 22 years old. So I was an intern somewhere just to get access to it.
There's another concern, by the way, with counterfeit battery-powered devices. Is the safety concern. Micah Sargent in our Discord says you don't want any of your devices catching fire after you accidentally swallow them while listening during sleep. And I think he's got a very good point there. Those counterfeit AirPods really don't sit well on the stomach.
It's that little stem. I can feel that one. Oh, boy.
The elephant has to pass that and the hat, then that's going to be really problematic.
Yeah, exactly.
If I'd gone for the Samsung Buzz, this would have been a much simpler process.
Speaking of Adobe, Premiere Pro joins the Adobe M1 compatible family today. New 2021, July 2021 release, 15.4, native support for M1 devices. What is not native at this point?
After Effects,
user apps.
Yeah.
Well, and also I just want to point out that this upgrade is massive. Like for Premiere, I mean, it is not just that it's M1 support. They're doing speech to text. I mean, for accessibility, they're doing speech to text, transcript editing tools, generate captions automatically, titling and captioning styling. I mean, this is a huge upgrade for the app. It's amazing.
Nice. Are we gonna? Do we upgrade, or we're still using Windows 7? So for some reason, I have a feeling we will not be using Premiere Pro 15.4 anytime soon. It'd be nice to have the auto.
Windows Director is one hell of an editor. I mean, a lot of people diss it, but
yeah.
The one thing I'd say that the reason that all these captioning tools, the accessibility is a noble cause, but the reason that all these captioning tools are going in is because of Facebook. Because people make decisions about whether they're going to play the movie by they want to see the captions.
Yeah.
So they look down and they go.
It's
not just Facebook; it's mobile in general.
Mobile in general that people want, but Facebook was what a lot of the software coming out today was generated 3 or 4 years ago,
right?
And it was planned 3 or 4 or 5 years ago.
Because of Facebook, I agree.
But when Facebook pushed through, what we saw was a huge demand for live captions, a huge demand to caption everything, because people are making decisions in the feed about whether they're going to play it based on what they're watching, and that became a huge issue to move this forward.
TikTok for me, I rarely turn on the sound because I don't want anybody to know I'm watching it. And
they just added captioning to their software, to their editor too.
But smart TikTokers have always been putting text onto their TikToks, because people don't have the sound on very often. And if I don't know what's going on, I'm not going to keep watching. I'm just going to flip up. We could do some rumors. I think at this point, any rumors you're hearing are, rumors, just that.
New MacBooks between now and next year. That one was great.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
I understand we'll have some sort of screen as well.
The mini LED screens, according to some, were difficult to make in short supply, and that's why the MacBooks were delayed. That kind of makes sense. Maybe they'll be out this year. Maybe not. A redesigned iPad mini with the A15 processor and a USB-C port. That seems like a good idea. Especially smaller bezels, so you get a much bigger screen in that same size case.
And my guess is iPad Air with Touch ID and not Face ID, so they can make it basically a small iPad Air and not charge a lot for it.
Oh.
Still premium, still not like bargain basement, but not pro.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah. I got to say, even as a guy who dropped $1,500 on a new iPad Pro, the idea of a seriously upgraded iPad Mini that really gets my attention, because it's still I love my iPad Pro. I'm very glad I bought it. It serves the role that I desired for it very, very well. But the one thing that it can't do is that it still can't. When I put it in my shoulder bag, it's definitely a
especially with a
tablet
keyboard
inside my
it's the same weight as an Air. MacBook
whereas
Air.
The iPad Mini would perfectly suit the role of, I don't even have any plans whatsoever to do any work or anything productive whatsoever, but nonetheless, if I find out that my train's been delayed 2 hours and all of a sudden I want to watch a longer movie, or I actually do want to do some writing, I've got this thing in my bag. Again, one of the most devilish use cases I have are the classic, I've got a meeting in New York City at 11 in the morning. I intend to stay afterwards, visit friends, maybe take in an opera, and then take the late train back. It's not something where I want to have lots of things carrying with me, because I'm going to have to carry that with me to museums, through Central Park, through the Met. But still, I've got stuff that I got to do. So the idea of having a bare minimum, but do that bare minimum stuff really, really well system is a really big thing. And I believe I could find $600 or $700 to spend on something like that.
Yeah, great.
I have to say, I decided not to bring my laptop to Hawaii on vacation. I only brought my iPhone and my iPad, and it worked great. In fact, I think the iPad is definitely the way I'll be doing my photo processing from now. And I was able to,
What were you processing on?
So I have a Sony A7, the current A7R Mark IV, and connected it with a USB-C cable, because it has USB-C in, to the iPad. Used Photos to import it. Photos actually can handle the RAW and does a pretty good job. Yeah. And then if I want to edit it, I've got Darkroom and Affinity Photo and Pixelmator Pro and Pixelmator Photo and all the usual. But I've actually found that importing into Photos is great, because now it's backed up. It's in Photos. They're the RAWs. It's on my phone too. It's great for sharing. And there were a number of times when the camera didn't do a good job of white balance. I was able to fix that white balance very quickly in Photos. do the cropping in photos, straightening, that kind of thing. Maybe pop it a little bit. That's all I really needed on all of them. So I haven't done much post-processing. The one thing, there was one picture of Lisa and Michael on the beach. The beach is bright. Their faces are dark. I really wanted to do, selective region retouching, and I couldn't really do that. Maybe I
think Lightroom's on the iPad too.
Yeah,
right?
it is. I should probably move it into Lightroom.
I've been in the past year. Honestly, my favorite phone game has been Lightroom Mobile.
Really?
Because
okay.
I mean, honestly, just
I have it on there. I just didn't even think to launch it.
Oh yeah. Well, it's. I mean, the photos that the camera app gives you are really, really good. But when you have the different right now, all phone cameras take a pretty good picture. Oftentimes, I think that it's the difference between one camera and another phone camera isn't as great as the difference between simply what the engineers in Cupertino think is a good picture and what personally affects you. And so the ability to simply say, okay, I'm going to not only have fine-grained control over not just 2 slides for color balance, but also what kind of color toning do I want? What kind of a color profile do I want in this? But also simply say, this would be the background is distracting. I know. I will simply put draw a circle around like the central figure, invert that, and then tell the app, please darken everything around this circle. Do that kind of
can you do that in Lightroom
gradient
Mobile?
filters? Oh yeah, no, you can do gradient filters. You can do in all kinds of directions. And I've almost had to stop sort of saying in my Instagram feed that I took this with my Pixel 1. So, oh my God, I had no idea the Pixel 1 took such amazing pictures. Like, okay, look, Pixel 1 plus like 10 or 15 minutes of fiddling around with it in Lightroom Mobile, because again, it's not a subtle difference between the logical problem of how do we create a picture that almost everybody will like to how do we create a picture that Andy Ihnatko specifically loves. I'm
ashamed to admit I didn't even think of that. I thought, well, I'll just wait till I get home and I'll do it on the Mac. But you're right. I could have. That's the beauty of this. The main point, I guess, is that the workflow from the camera to the iPad now is pretty seamless. In fact, I think you can import directly into Lightroom Mobile now. I think they've fixed that as well.
Yeah.
So that's very seamless. And there are a huge number of really good photo retouching tools on the iPad. Plus, with that good screen, I think that's a really touch and
the screen is just
it's a very natural way to work with photos.
Exactly. I trust the iPad screen more than I trust the screen that I'm looking at right now, or pretty much any other device screen, and the ability. I said this probably with the first iPad too, but it doubled this in the new iPad Pro with the new screen. The ability to simply slurp in like images directly from your camera and do your triage, and you're not looking at thumbnails. You're looking at beautiful 8x10 color prints of each frame. It's like there are times when things happen to the image is just really, really good, and I stop like, I'm really glad I downloaded this wallpaper. It's really, oh wait, no, this is just a picture it really does look like a beautiful luminous print. If anything, it makes me upset because I know that if I do like this picture, even after editing and get it printed, it's not going to look as good as it did on my iPad Pro screen.
If I can't take advantage with stills of HDR, or can I? Of the HDR capability of the screen, I'm not going to see specular.
Oh yeah,
you can.
It'll show the full brightness. Yeah.
Oh, nice. So even though it's a little bit of a darker, it's only a 500 or 600 nit screen.
No. The Pro is 1600.
It'll go up to 1600 in specular highlights in HDR.
Right.
Yeah. So if I have that in my photos, even if they're not HDR photos, I'll see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
And honestly, I was very specific when I said that it's my favorite mobile game on my phone, because the number of times where I'm just waiting for a train or something, and I just scroll through pictures, forget that, oh wow, I took that little snapshot, looks kind of good, and just playing with it for 15 or 20 minutes, even if it's not like doing rational things like, no, I decided that I want the background to be red and purple, I want the foreground to be blue and orange, and then I want to have like a blur effect on this side. It's just such a fun thing to just be able to play, and not by sitting down to a big like editing console with all kinds of knobs and switches and things. I'm just bored, and I'm just trying to. It costs me nothing to push that slider all the way to the right and see what happens, and then realize that, oh, actually that does look. It's extreme. It's not natural in the very least, but that is kind of cool. Great, let's push it all the way to the right. Anyway. It's fun for Andy Ihnatko's definition of fun.
Yeah, yeah, right. But I'm glad to say I did not feel any deficiency. I was able to get email. I was able to check, do all the things that I wanted to do. I didn't miss. More importantly, I did not miss my MacBook. So that worked well. That worked out well. Very pleased to say. Actually, I was just logging in to see. I bet it is too. If it's all on my iCloud, right? All the photos, because I use iCloud Photo.
Yep.
I could show you some pictures of Hawaii. Let me see. Are they? No, where's my... Oh, there they are. Yeah. I'm on a Linux box, so you understand that my questions. Yeah, I'll show you the photo I took on the beach with Lisa and Michael and Hal. So this is after retouching in iPhoto. I mean, you really get... I think it does a very good job.
Yeah.
The white balance was a little blue, as you can see. So
yeah.
Nobody's on that beach. I know. I edited them all out. There were actually 43,000 people on that beach, and 3/4 of them with COVID-19. No, this is a very nice beach off the beaten path. You don't have to have a lot of people in Waikiki.
Actually, the Lightroom Mobile does have that tool. So if you want to...
Yeah, the regional brightening thing. Let me see.
No, not just regional brightening, but if you want to remove people from background.
Oh, yeah, I know. So here's an example. This is unretouched. So it's a little dark. So I would want to, brighten them up a little bit.
Right.
Yeah. Still, nobody's on that beach. And I'm not telling you where that beach is. Ever. But there is an Airbnb on that beach with my name on it someday. What other stories will we be talking about this week? Let's see. iPhone 13 will feature Wi-Fi 6E. Okay, maybe.
Yeah.
Actually, this is more than a rumor.
That's the good version, Leo.
Yeah. These rumors. Who cares? I don't know. Well, actually, believe it or not, here we are, almost all the way through July. Yeah. The iPhone 13 is only a couple months away.
Right.
Wow.
Wi-Fi
I'm just very quickly. Now's the time where I start to pay more attention to rumors than I might have before, because now they have to start trusting the Fredo Corleones of the supply chain. That, okay, I know you're stupid. I know that you've got loose lips, but at some point you're gonna have to draw us a picture. You're gonna have to design this ad. So fine, here's a picture.
Yeah. Go ahead, Renee. You were gonna say something.
Oh, I was just gonna say. A lot of people were really excited about Wi-Fi 6, but a lot of the early deployments of it, on the router side especially, weren't that great. And the Wi-Fi 6E goes to the 6 gigahertz spectrum, which is much more open. It's not faster than 5 gigahertz, but 5 gigahertz has so much congestion that you often don't get really good speeds. So you'll be able to get more potential from these speeds. So it's an upgrade that I've been looking forward to for a long time.
Yeah. I have I had Wi-Fi 6 with my Netgear Orbi, and then I put in the Ubiquitys, and I think I don't think I have Wi-Fi 6 with those. I'd have to upgrade that. But I figure, I've been telling everybody, don't even bother, wait for 6E, because that's just around the corner.
Yeah.
So maybe now is the time to look at a 6E router.
Yeah. I saw an interesting question that someone posted that sounds ridiculous on the face of it, but it's an interesting topic for discussion on a slow news week. Do you think that Apple has any fear of using the number 13 in a product name, or is this going to be the iPhone X Mark II?
I'll tell you, there was no 13th floor in the hotel I was in.
There was no iPhone 9,
rarely
but
is.
there was an A13 chipset.
Yeah.
True.
But 13, so is it just in the West that 13 is considered unlucky? Because I know in Asia,
in Asia.
Yeah, what is it? What is it in Asia? 4?
4, because it's the same sound as death. Sit.
Huh. So there was an iPhone 4. You think that they will defer to Western sensibilities and skip the iPhone 13?
I don't think there was a lot of sales back in iPhone 4.
Yeah. Well, maybe not. Yeah.
Well, it wasn't on China Mobile yet.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. You know what? It wasn't available in China yet, so they didn't have to worry about that.
And the gray market people didn't care; they just wanted an iPhone.
Yeah, exactly. They'll deal with it.
Knox Harrington is pointing out they did release iOS 13, so.
True.
Hey, anything to say about 14.7 besides that it now supports that MagSafe battery adapter. Are there security patches or anything else going on with that?
I'm sure there are. I'm so enamored with 15 now that I haven't done my diligence.
I know. You know what? I know. I had my iPad with 15 on it, my iPad OS.
I'm so close. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I haven't done it yet, but it's like everyone's like, oh, as soon as the new Mac OS beta supports this feature, I'm probably going to have to do it.
They are going to, this is the Apple Card family sharing will be implemented for merging two. Oh, no, they already got it in 14.6, the family card. It's now, you can merge two Apple Cards into one. So... I don't understand really the point, but okay. HomePod timer management, air quality information will appear on Weather and Maps app from Canada, France, Italy, Netherlands, South Korea, and Spain. Podcast library, if you use the Podcasts app, now has an option that lets users see all shows or only followed shows. And there are some bug fixes.
With the new podcast support that Apple's put in, can you just drag and drop your podcast up there, or is it still an RSS feed? Is it still you put an RSS feed in, or can you just drag your?
It's two separate things now. The public podcasts are still RSS, but the private podcasts, the paid podcasts, are hosted by Apple, so you have to upload them separately to Apple.
So they are not RSS. When you can't subscribe to them in a third-party client.
But if you do that, you can just drag them in. You don't have to do the RSS or servers or anything else. You just put them on the Apple server.
Yeah, and then they add it to their own RSS. Like it's a secure RSS link that you can only use it, I believe, in Apple Podcasts at the moment.
Interesting.
Between this and Spotify, we're getting completely locked down.
Yeah.
You know, they just bought.
It was
they have
inevitable.
Joe Rogan and Call Her Daddy now. I forget the woman's name, but they're paying $60 million for her show.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Is that a big show? I never heard of it. Call Her Daddy.
It was notorious because it was two women who were doing sort of a sex advice show, and then they had a feud that became very popular, and they were airing their grievances, and that got a ton of attention.
Alexandra
and then one of them
Cooper
left and started her own show.
And Sophia Franklin. It's Barstool.
Sophia Franklin is
They
gone.
bought Barstool, didn't they? They bought the whole Barstool.
No.
Just Call Her
I think
Daddy.
they just took the show. Yeah, because part of their disagreement with Barstool was them owning the show at a certain point. And being able to get other deals.
It's Alex Cooper, she calls herself. Call Her Daddy. Wow, $60 million. I guess I picked the wrong subject to podcast about.
My understanding, I've done some small research into this. Tea is important in the economic factors. You need to have tea.
You must spill it. Yes.
Spill the tea.
I don't know how. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I was going to...
Beef. Tea and beef. I'm sorry, that's what I was looking for. You need to have tea. You also need to have a beef. I don't know whether it's like hamburger or...
Big beef.
The cut
big beef.
Beefs with people. Like, so it's like dining out content.
Gosh. I should have really spun that Laporte Dvorak stuff up into a bigger beef, in other words, is what you're saying.
You know, what you need is a makeup palette.
I think John wanted
That's
to,
what you need.
but I just wasn't. I didn't get it. I wasn't going along.
I think that at minimum, Renee and Alex need a makeup palette that also doubles as one of those like color charts.
Yeah.
So when you flip it open, there's a mirror so you can like make to your makeup, but the makeup is itself like a color calibration.
Perfect.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Oh, he's already got it, I'm afraid. There it is.
See?
Yeah. Apple is going to lease a Hollywood hub for filming shows and movies. I'm sure you know all about this, Alex, from the Wall Street Journal. It's looking at several possible locations. The new hub could exceed 500,000 square feet. Is that big? Is that like...
Not really.
It's bigger than a soundstage, smaller than a back lot.
Or it's a couple sound stages. That lets you do a bunch of. I mean, it's still a lot of space, but you have to remember that like a 100 by 100 space, still that's 10,000 by itself, and then so you don't need that many. A lot of those spaces can add up pretty quickly. It is so far Hollywood's done okay at selling this stuff to Apple and Netflix and Amazon and so on and so forth. But Netflix has already built massive facilities to do this themselves, and a lot of that has
right?
Yeah, so Apple's just going down the same path that all these other streamers are, and that doesn't bode well. They're obviously doing it in LA because that's where the talent is, but this doesn't bode well for, and you can see that's why people want to sell to Amazon, or they want to, like sell the whole company to them, because they're trying to maximize the value of the studio before it's not valuable anymore. The studios,
MGM's a classic example of that.
Yeah, I mean, they have a huge library that's valuable to somebody, but it won't be valuable. But they won't
for much longer.
be able to stay competitive. And so I think that there's going to be, we'll probably see more consolidation because of that process, because it's just not. It doesn't make as much sense.
Amazon has the Culver Studios, or the majority of it, 14 acres where Gone with the Wind and Citizen Kane were filmed. Netflix occupies several sound stages, but also built, purchased, and developed its own in Albuquerque, home of Breaking Bad.
Massive. Well, and that went to Albuquerque, of course, because of the tax incentives.
Sure.
And then but they have other ones that are spread around, and it's just the sheer scale of these streaming companies is way bigger than any of these individual studios ever were. And I think when we'll know that it's over is when Paramount sells their backlot, which will happen probably in the next 5 years.
Really, you think so?
Yeah.
Even with all the big bucks of Comcast, they don't need it.
I don't know if I just don't know if it'll. Maybe they can. Maybe that makes sense. But I think that's going to be when they sell that off.
Then you'll know. Currently, Apple leases sound stages from various places, right?
Or they outsource it. Like it doesn't have to be. They don't have to lease them all. They can all just hire a production company. The production company figures out where it's shooting, whether especially stuff that's on location. You'd only use the backlot for some things, So those are the things that will, it just depends.
The real question, I think a lot of us wonder. I mean, the big problem with Apple TV Plus is its lack of catalog. I mean, that's clearly what Netflix has going for it, Amazon Prime has going for it, Disney Plus.
To be fair, that Netflix started very slowly. I mean, they only had probably 4 or 5 properties when they began. And so part of it is you don't want to throw bad money. You don't want to spend a lot while you're figuring it out. So Apple's learning like everybody else did. Amazon started with a handful of product. Netflix started with a handful of products. They didn't just suddenly turn the pipe on and suddenly make huge amounts. Amazon and Netflix are years ahead of everybody else, and so they're producing all that content. But it is something that there's a learning curve. They're figuring out what what makes sense, what hits. Ted Lasso hit, so that was that's good. The morning show hit. So there's things that they've had, and they'll take that learning back, and because what they're getting is data. You have to remember that they're putting stuff out as a streaming company. It's not just it's not sales the way we'd see it before. They're watching Amazon or Netflix especially. They're watching the data. Who watched it? How many watched it? How long did they watch it? How where did they quit watching it? Did there like all this information comes back, and then you start to crunch that and figure out what you start buying next. And so they're right now they're just in that experimentation phase, but everybody went through that.
So you don't think they'll acquire catalog? I mean, Amazon Prime is basically buying MGM for a handful.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Of shows.
It's efficient. Yeah. It's efficient to buy a catalog, absolutely. Yeah. So I could see them, purchasing. I still think that Apple should just purchase Disney, but
it's getting bigger.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense. It's too hard. It's too hard now. It would have been. It just gets harder every year.
If they had listened to you years ago and bought Disney, they'd be sitting
That's all
pretty.
I'm saying.
They'd be
That's all I'm
sitting pretty
saying.
now.
Doesn't Lorene's shares keep growing with Disney? So isn't there something they could work out?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Apple shares will keep going up too, and so they're a little ahead of Disney's as far as scale goes. But there's so many parts of Disney that make sense for Apple that's the thing that is the most interesting. Is there's the content, there's additional interactive content that could be created. There are location experiences that could be added with AR. There's so many It's not just that you buy Disney for the content. You buy Disney for everything that Disney has fits into Apple's media.
92% of my childhood.
Yeah. I mean, even if you go all the way down to if you wanted to push into the education market, having Disney's IP would be super useful.
Yeah. But would that be compatible with Apple's company culture? They're not a company. They're a company that's used to saying we have a small group of people at the very, very top of this company who run apps, who know everything that goes on and run absolutely everything inside our company. Would a company like Disney that has so many individual interests in and of itself, would Apple be able to run it as a department with an Apple, or would it simply be okay? You're going to redo basically everything stays the same. Everything stays the same. We just own you, and we have our executive teams have a lot more talk.
I think that there's two things there. One is that Disney's probably the most likely to make that work than any other company that Apple would possibly purchase because of the way that they're pretty. Not all of their properties, but Disney Central is pretty controlling. So so I think that they're probably more likely to make sense. In addition to that, when Apple bought Beats, they didn't stop them from being Beats. They simply extracted what they needed out of Beats and let them continue to be Beats. In fact, injected Apple technology into what Beats is doing. So I don't think that necessarily you have to change the way Disney works. From a pure scale perspective, it's just not the way Apple generally works. You're absolutely right that they would not work that way. But I think that at some point, if they fall far enough behind, which I think that there's a high potential that they'll fall behind because I don't think that most of the content they're creating is very compelling. Like I think that it's most of it's dull, and it's just not that interesting. And so I think that it's problematic. I think it takes they
don't have
the
too many missions that Netflix and Amazon had.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. That's the problem. And again, there's so much of it that's kind of got some social tinge to it. It's not just you just can't sit down and just watch it and just relax. There's something and I get it. I mean, they want to be the next whatever the thing, but the problem is that all of it's that way, or it feels that way, and you just kind of go, okay. Sometimes I just want to sit down and watch someone beat somebody else up. I want to watch Jason Bourne. I just want to watch Jason Bourne, or I want to watch Avengers, or I want to watch, and I don't need it to have some bigger meaning. I just want to just be relaxed, or I want to laugh, or whatever.
I want to watch half-naked men play volleyball while women in bikinis look on admiringly. Sometimes I don't know about trash is exactly what we want.
Where is that show?
I'm saying it's for...
Just curious.
My wife and I had this discussion. She goes, "Life's too short to keep on watching the same movie over and over again." Because she's complaining about the fact that I can watch movies over and over again.
I can't. I try. I want to.
My thing is,
I want to watch Terminator 2 again. I really do. But it's like I saw this.
But my thing is, it's like, I already know that's a good movie. I might get to the end of some other movie and go, well, that was a waste of 2 hours.
No,
this will never be Born Identity will never be the waste of 2 hours. And Princess Bride is always a great experience for me.
And without getting into like an hour-long sidetrack, I find that like if I really love a movie, it's only on the third or fourth viewing that like I've formed enough of an immunity to the magic of this movie and what it does to my sense of disbelief to actually start noticing details that are really, really wonderful. I'm not just talking about, hey, oh wow, did you notice that in that Loki in the back shelf you see a book? It's purple. That's actually a reference in Avengers number 12. I'm talking about. I didn't notice that Bud Brigman has a stain on his shirt because the production designer realized that we're going to have to refer back to something that happened off camera. Like I know this doesn't happen in the actual script pages, but we know that he had this big fight with someone off camera, so we're going to put a tear in this hole right here to say that time has happened and things have happened.
I have to point out
little things that kind of
Andy, the chat room has found you the channel that you were looking for.
Yes.
So there you go.
Again, that's any way you slice it. You got to say objectively, those are some good-looking men. If you're gonna hire some men to be sweaty and topless and play volleyball, they chose very.
For those of you
wisely.
listening, we're watching the Top Gun volleyball scene. And that's, I don't mind watching a movie again in a context like that, but I wouldn't want to watch the whole
I just find
Top Gun again.
You can't remember all the funny lines until you've watched it 30 or 40 times. That's the whole thing. It just takes a certain and you have to decide whether they really are funny.
Pick it apart and complain about it until you see it 5 times. You thought you could trick me to thinking that I like this movie, but on the 18th viewing,
you can find your tribe.
The Mandalorian like 100 times by now.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, I love that episode. It's best Star Wars in like 20 years.
What do we think of not Wonder Woman? What's the girl in the rubber suit?
Black Widow. Yeah. I liked it.
Good.
The remarkable thing to me is that they had a female producer with Scarlett Johansson. They had a female director. They had female writers. And when the women were together, they had actual real conversations.
Nice.
Like about interesting things that women would talk about.
Not about men. Yeah, good.
Necktail green light.
One last rumor before we get to your picks of the week. Apple Watch and health executive Kevin Lynch
Yep.
according to Business Insider, which had the scoop, being refocused to the Apple Car team. Now, he's a star. We saw a lot of him in the last Apple event. And Apple Watch, certainly a success, according to Insider. It's not going to change his job. He's a VP of technology. But his focus might shift towards
he's handing health over to Evan Dahl, who's been director of health software recently, and he's going to be helping out with Titan, because Titan is like a whole bunch of parts. There's hardware, there's software, there's the whole AI engine to it, and Kevin is very thoughtful, very good, very focused on taking what could be very complex things and making them super digestible. So he's like an Edward Tuftian intellect in terms of making all of this stuff just human readable. And I think
a lot of egos on this team. You've got John Andrea, you've got the new guy from BMW, Rick Krantz. So you've got some heavy hitters working. I guess Apple's
Dan Dodge is still there. He was for a while.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. You got some. Apple's serious about these car ambitions, I guess we have to say.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money.
I still, as always, I cannot pretend to have even a guess as to what Apple wants to do with this project. But the thing that always keeps me interested in this, thinking that this is a serious thing, is knowing how many people got pulled out of very, very heavy duty, successful, rewarding careers by whatever the keynote slide deck Apple showed them to say, yes, I will leave this prestigious position at this car company to come work for your top secret project that might not ever actually ship a product. So that's always very interesting to me. Same thing with it attracts the top talent at Apple. Although Business Insider, was it? Business Insider had a report about how there has been some reshuffling, that some key people have left the project. So maybe this is new talent coming in to fill a vacuum.
Gurman reported
a hard
that
problem.
too quite a bit last year.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like it is a car, but it also the stuff that they're working on in terms of the autonomy, it's ingesting the world around us, understanding it, contextualizing it, and then acting and reacting to it. And that's a lot of the stuff we're already seeing in the Photos app and in live text. It's all stuff from these AR and autonomous technologies. Those are going to be the foundation blocks for everything Apple does next, from personal robots to the machines that make the machines to cars to shuttles. It's a huge R&D project that a car will be like the prize consumer spin out from it. But I think we'll be seeing the results for decades to come.
Yeah. As always, one of Apple's biggest strengths is, as I said earlier, that it's a very small group of top executives who know everything going on with the company, and they're not afraid of cross-pollinating one discovery, one technology with another if it's going to improve their portfolio of really good ideas.
Let's get our picks of the week ready, ladies and gentlemen. Renee Ritchie, Andy Anako, Alex Lindsay. I'm back from Hawaii. Thank you, Alex, for filling in for me. Why don't you kick us off with the pick of the week?
My pick of the week is made by, it's Dream, and it says Dream on the case, so it's easy for me to remember. But
Dream
it's Dream
Fibonacci.
Case. So I get a certain kind of case.
Ooh, and this is interesting.
I always get them with wallets, because I find that I lose my phone and I lose my wallet, but I never lose my phone and my wallet.
That's right.
so
exactly the logic.
So anyway, I just got it last week, and I'm just getting ready to put everything into it. But basically, you have, what I like about this one, I have this old one, this Ven. And the problem with the Ven, this is what I'm using at the moment, and I'm going to be swapping them over. But you kind of open this up, and what's kind of nice is you open it up, and you can roll it around, and you can make it into a thing, and you can do
a stand.
And the so that is it's a nice thing. It's hard, and it's big. What's cool about this one that I really liked is that this Dream one here, you can open it up, and of course now everything's on the side, so I'm not opening. I can just open it up and grab my credit card, or I can grab my everything else. But the other thing you can do is you can pull this out.
Nice.
So if I need to put it into a little, let's say an Osmo or something else, I can pull my phone out and simply, and then put it back in as needed. And it's just a lot easier. I was like basically pulling my other phone in and out because it was too heavy for my Osmo specifically, or any kind of latch that I was trying to hook it onto. And so being able to separate these out really, really quickly and easily is really nice. It's some kind of faux leather thing, which is works well. It has a nice little magnet that
How strong is
the
magnet? Pretty good.
It's strong enough.
Not gonna
I mean,
slip
it's
out.
not.
Yeah.
No, because it's like it's in here, like it's not going anywhere. Whatever the magnet is, the metal or the magnet or wherever that's going is strong, you know, and then you can pop it in. And I find that that's a great mix, and I think it's better than the Ven, which I've had for years.
I do something similar. I actually mentioned this as a pick a while ago because I want to still charge with the MagSafe, and now that the battery's out, so I have a MagSafe case on the phone, but then I have a leather wallet case that has a magnet in it. So it's the same idea, but it's not super secure.
This one's pretty. I can't imagine it coming out.
Yeah, that's
like I
better.
have to say.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my pick.
Very nice. The Dream DREEM Fibonacci. It's $44 on Amazon. I will give you Aunt Pruitt's pick of the week, which he's just stuck in chat, from Fjorden. They're in Oslo, Norway. Fjorden, faster camera controls on your iPhone. I haven't played with this. I don't know if Ant has. It's a Kickstarter, although they've raised a lot of money. They were looking for $23,000. They've got $168,000 already. It's Victor, who is the founder of Fjorden. And apparently, I guess, you get dials, knobs, and all this stuff, and a two-stage shutter button, a control dial, and a multifunction button that just snap on the back of your iPhone, plus a kickstand. Interesting. I don't know how it works, but Ant thought that was worth paying attention to, so I'll stick Aunt Pruitt's pick of the week in here. Andy, you're next.
A perennial favorite, BB Edit, has just had another major release this week. BB Edit 14. This is on a lot of podcasts that feature writers, particularly tech writers and programmers. You're going to get a diversion of 2 hours once the topic of BB Edit comes up, because it's my favorite. It's one of my favorite apps to write in, even though it is technically it's most popularly a programmer's text editor, but it is the ultimate app for writing, reading, working with, manipulating, developing text files. And it's perfect because it gets out of your way. So whenever I want to just simply open a window, write something, and then put it someplace else, then that's always my go-to app. It's tools for manipulating text, like if search and replace is nice, but when you have like a long document and you want to reformat all of the dollar figures, all the character names in a script, but depends on the context and where it is and how it is, that's something that if you can take just a minute or two to figure out how to do that with BB Edit's really, really innovative search and replace recipes. They've, as usual, when they do a huge release, it's rarely the sort of stuff where, now we've added augmented reality. Now just hold up your Mac and you can actually see what your text file would look like if it were on the billboard that's across the street. It's usually simple stuff in response to feedback from their users. So there's a lot of stuff in the release notes that have to do with developers who are using a new tool that BB Edit supports well but could have supported better. So now that's really well supported. But they're so focused on the user that there was I know the head of Barebones Software, Rich Siegel, very, very well. He's one of my best friends, and it felt as though in the release notes he was writing something to me, because there's a new feature called Notes and it basically said, well, Andy, do you know that how oftentimes like you just start writing without actually creating a file, and then you just count on BB Edit's auto backup to just restore it to your desktop whenever you launch and relaunch and restart. Well, we decided to give you a whole new panel called Notes to do all that stuff with. So when you don't have a name or a title or a purpose for something, this is where you can put everything and will be automatically saved, automatically restored, automatically backed up. And I said, stop. I'm flattered, I'm grateful, but if you're gonna remote access my Mac, at least tell me first, dude. That's
actually
that's part of the bro code.
He might have been writing this to me too, because that's actually one of the main reasons I use BB Edit, because it'll reopen all those little files I created. Big deal, though. There is a big new feature in this, support for LSP. So as a programming editor nerd, one of the things that's happened in this space, BB Edit's been around forever and ever and ever.
Yeah.
But VS Code, Microsoft's VS Code, created a new language server protocol that made it very easy to add support for languages into VS Code. And as a result, VS Code has started to eat the world in terms of programming editors. So support for LSP is huge in an editor, and BB Edit 14 adds that. And to me, that is a big deal. It means I'm just as likely to use BB Edit as I am VS Code. Huge. And must have been a lot of work to implement that.
Honest to God, if the simplest way to describe what you'd spend most of your day doing is typing on a keyboard and pushing a cursor to the right, no matter what the context that is, BB Edit has got your back covered.
Yeah. And they've added
$50, a 30-day free trial, and after 30 days, it doesn't stop working. You just lose like the top 10% of the features that make it take it from awesome to double awesome. So
and this is the paragraph for me: added built-in language module for Lisp. So I'm very happy now. Lisp and
Bang Jot Dot forever.
Renee Ritchie, your pick of the week, sir.
So I stuck a TikTok in there just because we were talking about it earlier, and it was fascinating to me because just like we saw the stage evolve into movies and the way that the language evolved, we're seeing this whole new style of editing and visual language come from these short form, massively democratized videos. And it's probably too long to play the whole thing, but it's basically someone complains about stitching on TikTok, and so people just proceed to stitch and stitch and stitch and stitch the video, making it bigger and funnier.
Oh, because people do these duets. So you'll stitch in one. You'll stitch an existing video to another one. So she's stitching her own videos to herself.
Well, the other people are doing that. Like they're adding
that's not her.
to it, and then,
that's great.
And then someone's going to add a rubbing belly. Yeah.
Oh gosh.
And then as it goes on, there's just
this
more.
could go very bad.
This
very
is the
quickly.
ultimate stitching video involving Lego dogs, pregnant bellies, and some guy singing sea shanties. I'm hoping, but we'll see.
You looked like watching that TikTok.
Oh my God, that's hysterical. The ultimate stitching.
I don't need to know what you look like.
And there's several like this that just like someone complains about something and they entirely get Streisand affected with. And so the original video is now this tiny little thing at the very top, while this massive.
This is what makes TikTok great, is that kind of collaborative spirit, remixing spirit that really is
up to 3 minutes now.
Yeah, and up to 3 minutes. This is 2 minutes and 10 seconds. It's a long TikTok. Yeah.
I guess it ends when you get to 3 minutes, right? Like that's the whole thing. Is like,
it'll be over by then. I rarely get to minute 3. I have to say, of any TikTok.
I get stressed. I have to admit, I don't
like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I get stressed if I look at something that's going slowly and I think it's going to be more than a minute. I just skip it because I'm just like, this is going to be too long. Like I didn't come here for this.
Well,
so
we talked about that I think before. It's like they've had to re-envision storytelling for the streaming generation because you don't have people in a movie theater, disinclined to leave, and you could do these slow burn stories. Now they said like people aren't worried about spoilers. They want to be told what they're getting up front and then built up to it throughout the thing, but they want that payoff immediately, or they're going to click onto something else. You have to earn their attention right away.
And like for me, like I watch probably half an hour TikTok a day. I mean, it's like the end of my day kind of thing. And if I see part 1, I just immediately skip it. Because I'm like, now I'm gonna have to go find part 2 inside of there, whatever, which is what they want you to do, right? That's the behavior. But I'm like, that's gonna be too much trouble. Like I don't care what you're saying.
Unless it's like someone found a secret apartment inside her bathroom cupboard. It's like
that was
these things are just super. The other thing I was going to mention quickly is because the world is starting to open back up slowly and carefully, I've been using James Thompson's Dice app on the iPhone, and it's magnificent. But Steve Troughton-Smith linked to, I'm blanking on the name right now, Everything Dice. They're getting ready to release their new collection. They're handmade sharp edge dice that are just absolutely gorgeous, and their new sets are coming out on the 22nd, so in 2 days from when we're recording this. And if you think that you know what Dungeons and Dragons or role-playing game dice can look at, they will continue to blow your mind with sunsets and sunrises and nebulas and all sorts of magnificent little works of dice art.
I think we can say hello and goodbye at the same time because we have come to the end. That's, by the way, what aloha means. We've come to the end of our fabulous Aloha Spirit podcast. Thank you, Renee Ritchie. Go to youtube.com/Renee Ritchie to check out his amazing YouTube videos for Apple fans and others. You also do Apple Talk with the fabulous Georgia Dow, who's going to be on Twit this Sunday. Anything?
I made a huge mistake yesterday, Leo.
What'd you do?
I forgot about Poe's law.
What's Poe's law?
That's that no matter how sarcastic you make something on the internet, a small percentage of people will believe it is accurate. And I made a video because there's so many like outrageous YouTube titles for Apple videos lately. So I made a video titled "The Truth About Insanely Great M1X iPhone 13 Price and Release Date Confirmed Leak Bombs or Apple's Master Plan to Finally End Facebook. Don't Make a Mistake." I thought, like, for sure, people are going to get that that's a joke.
No,
but there was like I'd say 30% of people were super angry I didn't deliver on that title.
Oh Lord!
Renee, can I say that I saw that video and that title come up in my YouTube panel, and I thought, oh my God, Renee has finally lost his mind. YouTube has finally eaten away from his brainstem.
So what I actually did is, for the first time, like, I described my own personal YouTube strategy. Like, I've been researching YouTube for like the last 2 years the way I research Apple, and I figured out I think I figured out a lot of how it works, and I wanted to explain to people why you see titles like that so often and so repetitively in your thing. But some people were like, not having it. Just not having it.
That's so funny.
It was by far my most popular. Like, it was 10 times more popular than any video I've done in the last 6 months, though.
See, so, it works.
I mean, obviously, it works.
Those titles work. Did you change the title? I don't see it.
Yeah, no, I had to shorten it because YouTube only allows so many characters, and then people were actually angry that I wasn't explaining how Facebook was over. So I switched the name to YouTube. So it's the second. I just put up a video explaining Pegasus, and it's a video right before that.
Okay. I see it. M1X iPhone 13 price confirms Apple's master plan leak bomb titles YouTube algorithm explained.
And I'm showing all those exact words in all these titles over and over again.
That's the whole video?
No, I explain. I spent the rest of the video.
Actually, I want to watch this because I'm trying to learn this YouTube stuff. This is.
Is it 58? Did I read that right? Is it 58,000? Hold on.
58,000 views. Yes.
58,000.
Yeah, in like 12 hours.
Put it up yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, but you realize, Renee, that now this has put you in a very, very delicate spot because
I know.
You chose that title just to be sarcastic, but now you're like, oh, damn, I made how much more money off of this video?
I looked into that place I dare not look. Well, the nice thing about sponsors is I get paid the same thing no matter how the video performs, so I'm not that incentivized to clickbait. But I do feel like I looked at the beast and the beast looked back, and now I don't know what to. So I put up a very somber talk about Pegasus today just to make sure I would lose more subscribers than I gained yesterday. Yeah.
Friends. Oh, I forgot. I got to introduce the other people. Andy Anako. almost said goodbye. Andy Anako, when are you going to be on WGBH next?
Bless you. I'm on here. I'm on the Thursday at 1:15. You can tune in by just going to WGBHnews.org, and you can stream it there live or later.
Thank you, Andrew. And of course, if you're interested in all things production oriented, you've got to check out Office Hours. Alex Lindsay's amazing officehours.global. For more information, it's a YouTube live stream. No, a Zoom live stream, which you can join, but you can also watch it later on YouTube.
You can watch it live on YouTube as well. So it's on every morning.
Okay.
7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. There's 2 hours on YouTube that's live. We start a couple hours early. We actually have started testing 24/7. So we are changing in August. We're changing we have a pre-show, or really what we call the pre-show at 5 a.m. And then at 9 a.m. we have the post-show. And instead we're just getting rid of those, and there's going to be office hours and after hours. And so what we're finding is that after hours is very popular. So anyway, we just leave it open, and it's kind of slow content. But we have things like people get in there and they start working, and they put something up while they're working, and everyone watches and asks questions. And then and we had Sunday afternoon, we had like 50 people watching. JJ, who works at 090, making SDI cables. He was just making them and answering questions.
Oh my God!
And just kind of working away. And so that it's small right now, but we have a feeling it's going to get pretty big because people enjoy it. And what we're noticing now is people are talking about putting in like an iPad or like a little computer that just sits there connected all the time. So, you turn off. It's like having an open office where you can actually shut the virtual door and open it whenever you feel like it. But what's great is people are talking. They'll be sitting there working I've been kind of quietly watching, some of the stuff. They'll be sitting and working and they go, oh, I don't understand this. And someone just immediately answers and like, oh, just do this, and this. And then and then they go back to what they were doing. And so it's not always that they're even talking. So that's our next little experiment is being on all the time.
But that
so
really
that's
is office hours. I mean, that's really, except that the hours are 24. But other than that, it's really office hours.
24/7. Yeah.
Somebody's
So it just, yeah. And we just started experimenting with it, and it's more successful than we expected. So we'll probably do more of it.
Very nice. Thank you all for being here. We do Mac Break Weekly of a Tuesday morning around 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1800 UTC. If you want to watch as we make the show live behind the scenes, you can tune in twit.tv/live. There's live audio or video there. If you're watching us make it live, you should chat with us live as well. There's two ways to do that. Of course, our free IRC channel at irc.twit.tv and our Club Twit Discord channel. If you're not yet a member of Club Twit, please check it out at twit.tv/clubtwit. It's $7 a month, a way to support us. You get your own special ad-free and tracker-free feeds of all the shows we do. You get access to the Discord and a Twit Plus feed with all sorts of bits and bytes and discards from the cutting room floor. Again, twit.tv/clubtwit. And thank you so much in advance for your support. After the fact, all of our shows are available on demand at the website, twit.tv. In this case, twit.tv/mbw. You can also subscribe in your favorite podcast client. In fact, if you do have a podcast client like Pocket Casts that supports reviews, please leave us a 5-star review. Let the world know of your allegiance to the Mac Break Weekly crew. And we will see you all back here next Tuesday. Have a great week. Now get back to work because break time is over.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am Ant Pruitt, and I want to tell you about my show, Hands on Photography, here on Twit TV. Each and every week, Thursday that is, I like to sit down and share with you the best tips and tricks that are going to help make you a better photographer. And it's not always about Photoshop. It's not always about just having the biggest and baddest and bestest camera. It can be the simplest of things like leave your eye open when you're looking through the viewfinder. All of these simple tips can really help step your photography game up. So subscribe to the show today. That's twit.tv/hop. And I look forward to talking to you soon.